And this is our first meeting in over 15 months, so thank you for attending.
Recording in progress.
In person, we've done Zoom throughout the whole entire process. If people feel comfortable with the number of people in the room, fine. If you don't, what I can do is divide it up, and we will ask you to leave the room, and we'll ask you to come in for each individual hearing that you're interested in seeing, up to the comfort level of the people here, if you think there's too many in the room. We do have one member that's participating due to health reasons via Zoom, so that leaves us with 3, so we do have a quorum, so we can hold tonight's meetings. That being said, I will entertain a motion to approve minutes from May 4th and May 18th. I have a motion, I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right, first public hearing is for 81 Ash Street for a notice of intent. And I will read that into the records. Under the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law is amended, and the West Bridgewater Wetland Protection Bylaw Rules and Regulations. The West Bridgewater Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on June 15th in the Brown McDonald Conference Room for a notice of intent filed for a single-family home with an upgrade of deck in addition within the 100-foot wetland buffer, and we are open. And do we have somebody presenting? And
So if you can put the plan up on the easel, I'm going to try to get it up on the screen there. I'm also going to try to get it so Steve at home can see it. You hold on for a second here. There we go.
all right, we're ready when you are.
Okay. For the record, my name is Josh White from Jacobs Driscoll Engineering, and we submitted this notice of intent on behalf of the applicant. Dan is definitely Spillane. This lot was created a couple of years ago. There was a subdivision and 3-lot subdivision that went through, and NOIs were submitted for the 3 lots, and this is one of the lots which was constructed. The NOI was approved in 2017, and I believe the COC was issued in 2018. I could be wrong on that. But anyways, the site was constructed as noted by the existing conditions of the site. And then Dan and Stephanie bought this property, and they are looking to expand and put a small addition on the back of the house with a small deck as well. The proposed addition is 14 by 20. The proposed deck is 12 by 14 with stairs down to the backyard. As part of this, preparing this plan, the applicant inadvertently did some work within the 50-foot no-touch and the wetland buffer, the wetland itself, approximately 1,473 square feet was disturbed within the 50-foot buffer zone, and 169 square feet within the wetland. Before we submitted this application, we met with John Delano out on the site to discuss what we would need to do and the applicant would need to do as part of this permitting process. So as noted on the plan, there's going to be some buffer zone restoration, which we're going to discuss tonight. And once we get the exact scope of what we need to do, we'll add that to the plan and come back to the next meeting. Just for other paperwork stuff, the proposed anticipated area of work is about 2,600 square feet, which is under the stormwater requirement, so there's no stormwater permit required for this. We're showing the perimeter erosion control, straw wattle, with the dewatering sediment basin as well. Another thing that we've noted on the plan is there's an underground storage, propane storage tank, which is pretty close to the proposed building, so we're recommending they shift it a little bit, just to get it, I believe the setback's 10 feet minimum for that size propane tank, so they'll have to relocate that. That's really it. We need to discuss the mitigation measures that we need to take for this. So with that, I think we'll just open it up for questions.
John, do you have anything to add?
So it's a pretty basic project in that it's just an addition onto the house, but in submitting the plans to the building department, it was noticed that they were going to have to file with the commission. So we met out there, and that's when we discovered the encroachment into the 50-foot conservation easement, and actually on both sides. You got some up in this area here, and you got some down in here.
And were the markers in place?
They were in place at the time the Conservation Commission issued the certificate of compliance. They had been removed. They being someone, encroached into the 50-foot buffer and the wetlands. And when I got out there, the conservation markers were put back in place because the engineer was involved at the time, so obviously they recommended you better get those back in. So I haven't reviewed this as to what the commission wants to do to mitigate the impacts on the conservation easement. I think we should discuss that and determine where we go from here, and maybe not even finalize it this evening. And I don't want to delay their project, but I think this is a major enough impact in violation that it needs to be dealt with. I think we've seen a rash of these now. It's a recorded conservation easement. The signs were up at one time. How they came down, we always find out. We never know for sure how they came down. Either the builder, who was now going to convey the house to new residents, took them down, or said that they don't have to stay up after you get your certificate of compliance. Whatever the reason, it's become obvious that having the recorded document on the at the Registry of Deeds on the title of this property and on the plan that was recorded at the registry doesn't do any good. And I've joked in the past that a 6-foot high chain link fence with no gates needs to be put along the conservation easement so that people will not go on the other side and disturb it. But just the other day I was out at a site and they have a 4-foot high post and rail fence along the conservation easement line, and behind it it's been mowed, a raised vegetable garden has been put in and installed, and the signs are up. It says wetland area, protected area, and yet no one called the conservation office to find out, should I do this or should I not? So I'm explaining some of that so that it needs to be dealt with to the point that we're setting some type of standard to be followed, because this is going to come up a number of times down the road. And I think we've recently fined an individual $100 for their violation and requiring some other things to be done, so that there should be a fine, there should be some permanent demarcation of the conservation easement so it doesn't happen again. But I'll stop at that point, and maybe the engineer wants to discuss some of the things I've said.
Well, I've said before, putting granite posts in that are a little more expensive and a little bit heavier to move could actually help the situation. You're not just going to yank those out and throw them away, not at the cost of a granite post. But we need to come up with something that is a little bit more permanent. I'm also going to mention that the fire pit will have to get out of the 50-foot at some point. There's a reason that we have the 50-foot no-touch, and for new construction especially, we really try to stick to that, especially with conservation easements put onto it. If there were no violations on this, this would be a very quick and easy process tonight. But like John said, I think we do need to look at this and come up with an enforcement action and some replanting.
So,
Excuse me. We have people in the hallway who can't hear anything at all. I don't know if someone can use the microphone.
Is there any,
I guess maybe we should ask, is anyone here for 81 Ash Street? Okay. Anybody else? Any abutters?
so as in, when I was setting this up, I was
Anyone
kind
in
of
for
didn't hear.
81 Ash Street?
So, what has been done to this?
We're going to be calling out
So-
the
Project?
In
agenda
this
items.
area right here.
Once
Yep.
something like one.
You can see the dash line for the original
And
tree
also
line.
here
Yeah.
to the
That was cleared in the 50-foot buffer. And then also a small portion in the wetland itself.
so if you look, they
So is this the new homeowner that did this? Is there a new homeowner, or
I believe so.
is that who did it? Is that homeowner here?
I'm right here. What's the question?
The area that was cleared in the 50-foot and into the wetland, was that done before you bought the house, or was it after you purchased the house?
There were down things that we had cleared out. They were not anything that was planted in the ground. So from whatever construction that was done before, so those are the pieces that we did clear out.
Is that area now mowed and lawn? Or is it
To the
just
left,
natural
yes.
vegetation?
If you're looking at the back of the house, to the right, yes, not to the back.
So what you picked up out of the 50-foot was just pieces of, what are you trying to say, of what was left over?
Yes,
As in what, pieces of wood or trees?
branches, bushes that were knocked over in the construction, that were not living anymore or planted anymore.
And you weren't told that you weren't supposed to be in there, in that area? It was supposed to be left?
I can't say no.
Nobody told you that?
We knew it was the wetland boundary.
Yeah, it was documented,
Yep,
so you went and did that anyways.
we did.
Okay. Yeah, I think we should discuss it a little bit more.
Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion to continue to the next hearing.
To
And come
take
up
this
with
under
a-
advisement?
Take it under advisement, come up with a,
I'll make that motion.
moving second, all those in favor? So moved.
Aye.
This will be on the next agenda.
What is the
Thank you.
meeting date?
In the meantime,
July 20th.
and John, if there's any photos or anything, do we have of that for next?
I do have pictures of what it looked like.
All right, our next hearing is 1 Luke Drive, for a notice of intent. I'm going to read that into the record. Under the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law is amended, and the West Bridgewater Rules and Regulations. The West Bridgewater Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing for the construction of an in-ground pool and patio for an existing single-family home within the 100-foot of a bordering vegetated wetland. And we are open, and we have a presenter. And I will take those.
Let's just stand over here. All right, for the record, Scott Fennar with Grady Consulting, here on behalf of the applicant. Just like to put in a pool and a patio area behind this house. So there's a bordering vegetated wetland to the rear of the property. As you can see, the site is fairly constrained. There's wetlands to the rear, and then there's actually a drainage easement on both sides of the property. So we're proposing all the work to be outside the 50-foot wetland buffer. For mitigation, we're proposing conservation posts along that 50-foot buffer, as well as a very nice rain garden to the left side of the pool. There's a little bit of grading work that we're proposing around the rain garden area, and we propose to just use some of the excavated dirt from the pool area to kind of flatten out that backyard a little bit. There's also some retaining walls that we're proposing there too. The site, it's kind of steep in some areas, so we really just want to kind of flatten it out. Open up to any questions.
John, do you have anything to report?
Unfortunately, I'm not having much luck getting the Milk Drive plan up on the screen here. Is anybody, abutters are here? Okay, hold on for a second. I'll get it up so you can look at it.
Is that where the rain garden is, the back part, right to the edge, is that the 50-foot?
Yeah, that's right at the edge of the 50-foot.
So it's right on the edge.
Exactly. Yeah.
And looking at this one, we also had an encroachment into the 50-foot with a shed that was...
Yep, that is correct. Sorry, I forgot to go over that. There was a little encroachment with that shed, so part of this work, we're proposing to just relocate the shed, just pick it up and put it outside the 50-foot buffer and outside the drainage easement.
One of my comments I made on the plan already was, I noticed where the proposed relocation for the shed is, you might want to move it a little further away from the 50-foot, because if you have to do any maintenance or repairs or painting on that shed going into the 50-foot,
Sure.
just to give yourself a little workspace.
I thought it was 100.
Could you turn that around so the audience can see it? I have no luck getting this up here for some reason.
And my other question is, there's a subsurface roof drain located already on the plan. Would that need to be relocated at all underneath the new pool apron? Or can you, if there is to be repairs or maintenance or anything that has to be done to that in the future, deal with that underneath the pool decking?
I can't see where.
Just take a look to see which area you're referring to.
Where's the street?
This is the street right here.
Okay.
So this is the
So
main
this
road that comes out
is this
here.
Brooks?
Yes.
And John, this one would have had markers as well, I believe, as part of our...
There's a story with this, so
The right back.
if I can,
They all have one,
Yes,
at
they do.
least. I think there's a few more in that neighborhood that might have stories as well.
Saying that yours comes up.
Here, Patricia.
Yours, okay.
This is my own personal laptop because
Okay.
I couldn't get any, I couldn't get my email or anything to load.
This
Oh,
right here,
okay.
the drainage easement
Yeah,
that
with this.
essentially separates the two properties.
The markers on there.
No, you're in 103 yet, you're up in this area, so that's your fence line.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
The builder, when he had built this, when we first put Blue Drive in, he had stated that there was gonna be a retaining wall that went in the back to protect the wetlands and a fence. I don't see either one of them. So,
I can't really speak to those points just because I
mean,
wasn't
only
a part of that process.
both him and he's
The
at
what?
103, I'm at 115. I don't want any water, more water
It
going
isn't.
into my
No, it's
cellar,
not.
and neither does he.
Okay.
So we want those wetlands protected.
Sure.
I mean, by all means, let him have a pool, that's great for him, but I just wanna make sure that no trees are being cut down and the wetlands are being protected, so water doesn't come into our cellars.
Okay. To touch on that, there is a little retaining wall around here in the area of the drainage easement. but it stops about right here. And to your second point, there's no proposed tree clearing for this project.
No tree?
No
Okay.
tree clearing at all.
All right. I mean, that's all I care about is making sure that the trees stay up so more water doesn't get into either one of our cells.
Yeah.
I mean, we're on the low end of the street and there are no drains on Brooks Place. So everybody on Loop Drive has drains, but we don't, so all the water is coming into our cellars. So, yeah.
Well, that's street drain on the side of the house.
Yeah, that drains
I
into
own
the
about
woods.
50 feet back from the property line, and that gets all wet, and at a certain point, closer to the property lines, if it pours and gets really heavy, I get about 4 or 5 inches of rain.
So
It's just above
you
the water.
face this property, you're to the left of it? As you face their house?
I'm on Brooks Place,
Okay,
So you're to
okay.
the left.
Yep,
Yeah, he's to the right of it.
okay.
so the drainage on his right side of
Yep.
his property faces right into my yard, and the water, comes in, and if it does get heavy rain, it does get all wet back there. In certain parts, it's underwater.
Is it coming in because of the drain, or is it coming off?
I mean, the street drain basically goes right into my yard, the way it's set up.
So, if I may say something. Well, I don't know for how long you've been having this issue.
Yeah.
But
It's
what
on the
I've
shades
noticed
wetback.
since
I was just gonna say that.
since I've lived there is that when it rains, all the water goes into the drain and it stays there for like a day, and then slowly.
But it does face my property where it does go
How long
Yeah, the
you-
overflow on a
how long you
heavy
lived there?
event.
to.
2 years. It's been like that since you've been there, right? Nothing's changed? So nothing.
Well, I've been there
nothing
for
should
5
change,
years
put it
and
that way.
I've always seen it.
I'm just saying, when it gets really heavy rain, it does stay on top of the land back there.
No,
I've
I
been there
know.
for 40 years and I've seen the back flood, yeah.
That's why they call it West Bridgewater. 2 years without water.
So if I might add a little bit here. So what we're seeing is the 100-foot wetland buffer line, the 50-foot buffer line, and the drain easement is that area that you see here. So the drain pipe comes out of the street of Loop Drive and discharges in this area here. So we've got catch basins out front. We've got drain manholes that collect water from the other catch basins in the area. And then it's directed through this drain easement underground to an outfall here. It stores within a basin that's in this area here and then discharges out into the 50-foot buffer and towards the wetland. And you can see the elevation of 105 here, 104 here, it's 105 over here, and what that means is that it's probably very, very flat, and so a few of the topographic features indicate that it's pretty flat. So I can understand how if they're over in this area as in the abutter, they probably see the water that is in this area because it is all flat and it doesn't flow fast enough so it'll sit there for a while during the storms. So that was supposedly taken up during the subdivision phase where the planning board reviewed it and commission reviewed it, and the engineers had indicated that it was in accordance with all standard requirements.
So that's why nothing should change then, right?
The original developer was responsible for putting in a retaining wall along the 50-foot buffer, and where it was not shown, or where there was not a stone retaining wall, he was required to put in a fence.
Which he did.
And then they were supposed to erect on the fence signs, conservation restriction signs, and posts along the stone retaining wall. The builder of the house, who was working with the developer of the roadway, had to post the bond with the Conservation Commission to have that work completed before the commission issued the certificate of compliance. The new homeowner, who's here this evening, Ston, purchased the property, and the builder sent me an email saying that as part of the deal between the developer and the builder was saying he would relinquish that money to the builder, to the developer. I've contacted both of them. They basically say that they're not doing anything about it. And so we can either revoke the bond, seize it, and have those signs and that fence put in for the amount that we held, or we can ask them to do it and give them a deadline to do it, and if they don't, then seize the bond. So that needs to be taken care of before this project can be approved. And it's unfortunate that Ston is now stuck in the middle of this problem where the developer hasn't fulfilled his requirement and is apparently willing to cough up the money that is outstanding on this. I don't know that for a fact. He just doesn't seem to be responsive on it.
Let me ask how soon you want this pool in? This season?
Tim,
Yeah.
maybe I can shed a little light on this, because I know you mentioned the fence, and so I was, Steve Currier, 6 Loop Drive, so I was involved in the meetings that you had when you were talking about the border, and it was only supposed to be the posts with the signs on it. The fence came up when I spoke about my pool, that it was on the plan, and that I would need a 4-foot fence just because it's a pool, right? So that's where a fence came in. So originally the whole thing was just gonna be the post and the sign.
No, that's incorrect.
Steve, that's-
And
yeah, that's
I
not
don't-
true,
I don't
because-
mean to say that you are incorrect. I'll say that you might be misinformed. The order of conditions specifically for this lot and other lots states that there will be either the fence where there's no stone wall, retaining wall, or posts along the stone retaining wall. So your developer is misinformed and misunderstands things, and it's very difficult. We can't force them to
But
do
he
things.
believed there was a fence, and he's still intending to do it.
Well, he better
He's-
hurry up and do it, or he's holding up Ston on this whole thing.
Right.
And it's too
Well,
bad.
And it was mentioned to me there was a retaining wall and a fence.
But so maybe the fence came in after, I don't know, but that's the conversation.
Well, I know when we finally finished
All of you here.
the order of conditions, the fence went in, and may have been because you had said if anybody puts a pool, they're gonna need a fence anyways. So we may have just said, well, we'll just put the fence in wherever there's not a wall, because they're gonna need one anyways, and it's one way to make sure people don't encroach into the 50-foot.
Well, 'cause
Steve-
my
Steve's was-
question was,
Right.
is that if I'm hunting, can I walk through there?
Through the easement? Yeah.
Can I walk through the wetlands and
Yes.
conservation if
Yeah.
I'm hunting? So-
As long as you have permission from the property owner.
So why a fence? I'm the property owner. If I'm gonna walk through there without taking, that was my question at the time at the meeting.
But-
Do I have a right to walk through there? I can't go through and.
You can walk,
I can't
but you-
plant a
So-
lawn, I can't.
So one of-
Seeing that everybody doesn't realize that the
And I get
markers are
that.
there for a reason, and there's a boundary set.
And
I can
and
understand
agree
what-
with that
I
as
can
well, Tim,
understand.
but at the end of the day, do I have a right to walk out
Yeah, you can
there?
walk, you can put a gate in that fence and walk out there anytime you want.
So if
Plus you gotta realize that if you ever sell the property or some, for some reason, then later on down the road, like as we saw before, earlier, somebody might just assume they can go out there and do whatever they want on the property, and it's not, they don't know what's going on.
I
So those-
totally agree, it's gotta
So
be
those
marked.
markers, they have to be marked.
I don't want more land to take care of, so I
No, I
prefer it to
understand.
stay the way it is, but I'm just kind of trying to bring it back to what we were, what
And I mean,
what
in
I
fact-
understood it as from the previous meetings, but as far as the developer, he hasn't gone away, you still have him in town, he's doing light post or whatever.
Light post and,
So he's still around, he's actually.
he's getting a little ahead of himself on that,
Finish up
too.
work at my house this week and next week.
So,
Um,
John, I'm not too familiar with this order of conditions. Are we just talking about the area between the developed portion of the lot and the 50-foot buffer? Or are we also talking about continuing down along here?
No, it's just it's just to the lot line.
So it looks like we're pretty close anyways with the amount of retaining wall that we have, so all in all, we're really talking about this small portion between the end of the wall and the beginning of the drainage easement?
Yes.
That's correct.
If Son's acceptable to it, would you be willing to approve it if he was willing to just put a fence up over that small gap there?
And
Well, it's part of the builder responsibility or developers to put that in as part of his order conditions.
Sure.
If that conservation marker was there, the shed wouldn't have been placed where it was.
And this all comes back and looks bad on us too.
I mean, there's a reason we have an order of conditions.
Yeah, no, I understand all that, I'm just.
And I don't wanna see his project delayed
solution.
because the
We're not-
developer is.
We're not here to get
But the
big enemies
reality
to
is,
you
he's
guys.
putting a pool in, so he has to put a fence in anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
It would be nice if the developer would work with him and everybody could get this moved and done
Yeah.
as part of what the project was approved from the beginning and not have to spend extra money, and then we have money sitting here as a bond that we have to make a decision where we divide that up and send it to.
Well, the fence the developer's looking to put in, when he was talking about the fence, was just a PVC split, double rail fence, that was it. So that wouldn't suffice for a
Right.
pool either, so he
Yeah.
would still have to put a fence in.
But we just wanted basically for the 50-foot buffer though. Mainly what
That's
So-
exactly.
our purposes.
I will, as part of this project, I'll put the fence, it's not gonna be much of an area to cover. I'll offer to do that so I could get this approved, because, I mean, I wish this was mentioned earlier, maybe would have already proposed to put the fence up, but in any case, I would be willing to put the fence up, and I'll deal with the developer on that, so I can get some.
I saw, you have a question?
Yes, I don't argue about him putting a pool in his backyard, that's fine. What I is going back to the beginning when the builder had said to me, we're gonna put a retaining wall and a fence, and it's like, because I said to him, I don't wanna get flooded, if you're gonna start going after the wetlands. And he laughed at me, he's like, oh, let me finish doing everything before, you argue about it. Well, he hasn't finished, and there's still no retaining wall or a fence, so that's my concern. I think it's great that he's putting a pool in. I'll jump in it,
So I think there's a lot of issues, potential issues here with the builder and the development and everything,
Yeah.
but as far as what's going on this property, I think it's definitely reasonable to just put a fence in, span that small gap, which should cover, it's not gonna close out, obviously, that order of conditions, but it will be in concert with those order of conditions.
so I'm struggling with the idea that Ston is now going to, and I realize part of his pool project requires a fence, so he's gonna be putting one in anyways. But he's also gotta put in posts with the conservation signs along the stone retaining wall. So that would be an additional thing, and we could write that in the order of conditions. And then by doing so, and him complying with those conditions, he lets that developer off the hook.
So now he has to move the shed?
Well,
So-
isn't the developer responsible for all the houses on this, all the
Yeah.
lots on
Yes.
this street, not just this one lot?
Yeah.
Right,
All of this.
yeah.
And
So it really wouldn't be relieving him of that responsibility.
Well,
We're
the
just
specific bond
accelerating
is
this one
applied to this
project.
lot. And then there's another lot where he has another bond that he has to accomplish the work and finish the work on another lot. So it's like each lot has a bond that's where it's appropriate. So, I don't know,
Would you be willing to release some of the bond to Ston to do the work?
so the legal mechanism for that would be to notify the developer that we're taking his bond by a certain date unless he completes the work himself. And then if it's not complete, we'll take the bond and either hire someone to do it, or we would give it to Ston. And if he agrees to that, then we could just hand it over to Ston and he could finish it off. And he might have a surplus, which would maybe kind of help out for the aggravation you're going through, Ston. But That's about the only way I could see this. We have to notify the developer that he's got to do this by a certain date or Stan gets the money. And again, I don't know if that's entirely feasible. I may have to check with town council to see, but if we drop an agreement where the developer agrees to that, I think it would be legal, so.
I mean, if the developer's already in town, we're doing projects, he's got crews and manpower, putting up a small section of fence or walking away, it can be his decision at that point. And we don't have to give him 60, 90 days to do this. I mean,
His reputation's on the line too.
And he is responsive when
Yeah.
you can pin him down. He's doing a lot of different things, and to try to get him to pin him down on it.
I think once you get the details done, my suggestion would be a 14 or 21 day window. And if he doesn't respond and have it done, then we're looking to release the bond money to the homeowner to get the project complete.
Yeah, we'd obviously ask for the smallest window that you're
Right, I mean,
legally allowed to, just because he is holding us up now.
So if we were to close this and issue within 21 days, that 14,
That's why I'm trying to pick a number of days where it works for everybody. We're not.
so the
14th,
20,
by the next, that meeting after that, we should be able to go to. So within that 14, the next meeting, we should be able to know exactly what's going on after that.
yeah,
So don't, yeah.
yeah.
So 14.
How long is the project gonna take to build and construct, if you were able to start?
The entire pool project, yeah.
How long do you think it would take, time-wise?
I would say about, I mean, everything's not gonna be done, I don't think this summer, but we'll be able to get the pool in, that takes a couple of weeks. So, but then after this, we will still have to go to the building department to get another permit, so to get a permit, so that's gonna take a few more days. So, yeah.
A good month.
So, let's see. And
So in a nutshell, they could probably get started, if you give them a 21-day for the builder. If they give them a proof to get started, they can build the fence up. Times they're ready to rock and roll, you should have an answer from the developer, and if he's not answering or
If you send it
compliant,
to him- Say if you send it to him tomorrow and he responds the next day and he says, okay, I'll take care of it and start doing it, then that's fine, right?
yeah, still gonna get done in the
That's
same
up to him.
amount of time.
Or you could just say, I want to walk away, and here's the money,
Yeah,
you
you
do it
might-
yourself,
yeah.
it's part of the
So
project.
that might start quicker for you too, either way.
Absolutely.
so the question comes up, if we close the hearing and issue within 21 days, he can't really do anything until he gets that document. So we have to issue it quicker than 21 days.
7 days?
7 days.
7 business, 7 days would be fair.
It's only
So I mean, in any case, I had nothing to do with whatever this developer did or did not do. I had nothing to do with that. I mean, the house,
But it just holds up your project,
or the house.
unfortunately.
Now I went through this process. I worked with you guys to come up with something that would satisfy you guys and satisfy me. It cost me extra money to do this, but I wanted to do something that's going to be.
I mean, you're gonna put the fence in whether you have the builder's money to do it or the builder does it, no matter
Exactly.
what.
So,
You realistically
and
can
I'm- and I'm
close,
get- if
issue
we
the
have an
enforcement,
issue-
have the builder deal with it, and if he says no or yes,
Give us some kick-
I don't realistically think you're gonna get too many pool companies within 21 days right now to be in there putting a pool in. I mean, they are so booked out right now. I'm surprised you got one for this year, you're lucky.
I was working on it since April, so.
I mean, I'm seeing a lot of them that are going in and don't even have fences around, and people are using them with the hot weather, and they've got a snow fence around it, and I'm thinking, there's a lot of little kids in this neighborhood, and that's a liability I wouldn't wanna have on me right now without a fence, but.
So, Tim, just with that, I'm also the president of the homeowners association in there, so if there's other properties, I'm gonna see Al on Thursday. So if there's other I can get some information right there, because I'm confident he's gonna do it. But if he knows how, okay, I gotta get it done, there's a deadline, I expect he will, but I can't speak for him, but I expect he will. But if there's any information you wanna make sure he gets, I'm happy to pass that on.
So we were to close the hearing tonight with conditions. And also inform the developer that he has 14 days to get the job done, or the money will be turned over to Ston. Ston can start 10 days after he picks up the paperwork, which I don't think would be ready until Thursday. And unfortunately, I don't have it tonight for everybody to sign it, so we'd have to do that same old thing where people would have to come in. So if you wanted to close the hearing and issue it by Thursday or Monday at the latest, then he has 10-day appeal period. And that would kind of match up with what the developer needs to do, either do the work or say, yes, go ahead and give it to Ston. I think that's the best we can do, Ston, for you.
Okay. So, just to clarify, I wouldn't be able to apply for the building permit on what is 10 days? Is that what you're saying?
Right, because if the 10 days is an appeal period for anyone to appeal our decision, the commission's decision. And so if you started it, you'd be, it's in violation of the wetlands law that you started before the appeal period is over.
Okay.
So,
10 days after he gets the letter. With how quick to get the letter out, so it might not be for 2 weeks. Right?
so yes, you can't really go to the building department until you have that paperwork in your hands.
Okay.
So we're going to try to issue it either Thursday or Monday, and then you could go right over to the building department, start and get that approval process going, and your 10 days will run, and you'll be able to probably
That's fair enough.
be able to match everybody's work up at that point.
So Joan, are you saying the wetlands are gonna be protected?
Yes.
It's gonna be a sign or something?
They didn't really emphasize that in the presentation, but this rain garden that's being put in here is to take the additional stormwater runoff that this impervious surface, pool water's impervious, and the patio, to go into the rain garden so that it directs the runoff, so it won't add more to the wetlands. It'll try to absorb it. Plants in it will try to be absorbed and absorb the stormwater, and so.
Yeah, because I was under the impression the developer was also supposed to put plants back there on the wetlands to absorb the water.
So you're correct. There is a requirement for him to do some plantings at the outfall of the stormwater basin that he is using for street drainage.
Which is.
And he hasn't done that yet.
Which is
That's
directly
part of
behind
the
my
law.
house, yeah. So he's supposed to be put plants back there as well?
Yeah.
Put some.
Am I assured that's gonna
Some
happen?
small
Puts 'em in,
plants, yeah.
but they're young.
Yeah.
They're not noticeable.
So I'd have to, they don't show up on here and,
Yeah, they were
I
very.
know they're down by me, so I expect he did his at the same time.
Am I promised that's gonna
That's
happen?
growing to do.
so it's part of the bond that we see, that we asked him to post with us to do all of the unfinished items that were required by the order of conditions, and he didn't do them, so he took the money.
So I know you said you were gonna give Stone some if, part of the, can you give me some of it so I can do the planting?
No, because you're not the property owner that bond was.
I wanna plant, I don't want the water in my yard.
If he wants to invite you over to.
I wanna plant the plants. I wanna make sure the plants are there.
Well, you get the plants, she'll plant them for you. Pretty lamb.
But as for that water issue with yours, nothing should change if everything goes right with this whole.
Yeah, with this
development. Nothing should change, so you're gonna have water no matter what.
But it should not get
I
any
just don't want
worse
no more
than it
motion.
Not
currently
get
is.
any worse, no.
It's not gonna get any worse.
Are there any other questions or comments? Not, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. I'll entertain a motion to issue a standard order of conditions for the construction of a pool and rain garden for the project,
With conditions.
with the conditions.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All set.
Thank you very much.
So we'll
Hope
try
all the
to,
dates.
try to have the
All in.
paperwork for you Thursday or Monday at the latest.
Okay.
All right?
All right, thank you.
We don't have the
Good time, have fun.
administrative person in the office this week, so if I can get it done for her, then it would be Thursday. If not, she returns on Monday, so I'll try to make that top priority for her to do if I hadn't got a chance to do it. All right?
I appreciate it, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. It's great to be able to see everybody.
Yes.
Take care.
Next, we have 171 Matfield Street.
Well, thank you.
We have somebody here to present for that one.
Is
171 Matfield. All right, well, you're setting up. I'll read it in.
Is anyone here for 171, other than you?
Under the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law as amended, and the West Bridgewater Conservation Commission Wetland Bylaw Rules and Regulations, the Conservation Commission will hold a notice of intent for construction and upgrade of a existing septic system for a single-family home at 171 Matfield Street. And we are open.
Mr. Chairman, if I could
And-
just ask Steve, who's on Zoom. Steve, do you have copies of all these documents? He does, okay. That'll save me one step.
All right, we're open?
Oh, wow. Is this just in the way here? Is the same thing gonna be up on the screen?
No, John will try to get the same thing on the screen. The commissioners have that plan in front of us here on the computer.
Okay,
So you can use that one to present
sure.
forward if you want. So,
Ready whenever you guys
yep, go
are.
ahead.
Yeah, for the record, Peter Lyons with Collins Civil Engineering Group, representing the owner here. This is a septic repair for a failed system at 171 Matfield Street. Quick overview of the property. The property line itself on this plan is highlighted in yellow, but running right through the middle of the site is a 125-foot wide electric easement. So the first thing you might ask is why we're not going up front. It's because it's all within the limits of the easement. So basically this triangle over is where we can do the work. Unfortunately, that puts the components within or around the 50-foot buffer to the wetland. The bordering vegetated wetland wraps around the rear of the property. The 50-foot buffer is shown in orange. The 100-foot buffer is pink. Basically, our proposal is to replace the existing leaching field with a pump system to a 14 by 21 foot leaching bed. That'll be slightly elevated. There's no trees coming down on this one. It's all an existing lawn. So it's a pretty straightforward repair. Unfortunately, due to the easement issues, we are tight to the wetland. We've proposed erosion control around the tanks and the leaching area itself to protect the resource area. We show stockpile areas out to the north in front of the proposed leaching. Conservation posts have been proposed in, looks like 7 locations around the property, more or less on the existing tree line or the 50-foot buffer towards the west. That's a quick overview of it. If there's any questions?
Looks like the grading's pretty much level. I mean,
Is it going over the line at all?
Is it what?
Is the grading going over the line at all, or the system going over the line at all?
The grading tucks just into the easement, and the reason for that is we're dealing with an existing water line too.
Yeah.
So to keep the 10-foot separation to the water line, the grading is within the limits of the easement, but the components of the system itself are not.
It's pretty much flush, right?
Yeah, yeah, it'll be coming up about 1.5 feet, maybe 2 feet over the proposed leaching field. No change in elevation over the tanks. Or minimal.
John, any comments?
I just wanted to ask Peter if he could elaborate a little bit on the farming easement that appears on the plan.
I cannot, honestly.
Okay. So apparently someone, and it's probably the abutter, has an easement on this property to be able to do some farming. And it's probably recorded, or otherwise it probably would have been on your plan. So I don't think we can put the conservation markers over there. So I think we have to stop it at the that one right there. So other than that, it's a definite improvement of the situation, and that they're in dire need to upgrade it. And wasn't this the former house of the conservation
Yeah.
administrative person
I believe so.
when she was a youngster? So there's no conflict of interest there because obviously other people have owned it since then. So that's my only comment, is that I recommend the approval of the project, and I don't approve the idea of a conservation marker showing a restricted area for that.
So we just
Right.
remove the one marker on
Yeah.
the far side.
And Peter's
Get rid of
X'd it
that
out
one.
already.
So, it failed, obviously.
Yeah.
Do they have any plans on selling the house, and moving, or is this something that they,
Typically, that's the case, yeah. I
so
don't
that's,
know the name.
so something new can be in there?
Yeah, usually we get called, I mean, most 19 out of 20 times it's not, because, people have extra money to do a septic system.
Okay, so there's a reason for it, basically.
Yeah, it's a failed Title V inspection.
Other than that, it'd be working fine if they're still gonna be figuring they're gonna be there.
It
right?
could be, yeah.
Yeah. So we gotta worry about somebody else coming in there to make sure it's protected. So,
At least we're getting them in now.
well, yeah, make sure that we put in, recorded, make sure that they know that the easement's next door. And there's no way of going up any higher and maybe putting a wall against one side of it,
Against
the septic, to keep it maybe a little bit
Further away from the-
further away from the
Not
wall?
really like this, I mean, we
You get the
we need
driveway.
5 feet off the edge of the, without moving the water line. Not really, because we got the 5-foot over dig in the system. So we kind of need that space. We can't really put a wall within 5 feet of the chambers. It'd be outside that, which would push us too close to the water line. You could do it, but you'd have to, dig up the water line and sleeve it.
So this is just, I mean, this part's the leaching field, obviously, right?
I can't see where you're.
I mean, right here. That's the leaching field.
Yep. And the tanks are over on the
So there's
sidelines.
well, I hate to say it, but
Yeah, there's-
putting like tight tanks in?
No, that's really a last
resort.
absolutely last resort. Yeah, on a 4.5 acre lot, it's almost unheard of to do that.
But if you have to have the option to do it because of a reason, you have to, you can do it though, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think this is the appropriate place.
I understand, I was just wondering if you can do it if you had to.
Sure, if it's the absolute last resort.
Because it's not like the homeowner's gonna worry about it. It's gonna be the new homeowners.
Yeah, I think they'd honestly rather worry about that than have to pump a tight tank every 2 weeks for the rest of their life.
No, I understand, but we gotta keep the wetland protected too,
Yeah,
and wanna make sure
yeah.
everything's gonna be fine with that. See what happens, I guess.
If you didn't have all the easements on the property, it would have made life a lot easier as well.
Sure, like I said, I mean, there's plenty of space within the lot, but not much that we can actually utilize.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else, comments, questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make the motion.
Steve, I think I heard him say second.
Okay, moved and seconded, all those in favor? Aye. I'll entertain a motion to issue a order of conditions for the septic upgrade as presented with the removal of one of the conservation markers.
I'll make the motion.
Steve, second?
Steve seconded it.
Yep, I heard that one. Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Thank you very much.
I got a couple more, I think I'm next as well.
What's one of the other ones that you've got?
South Street, up next on the list.
So, 127 South Street.
127 South Street. I will read that into the record. Under the Wetland Protection Act, 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law is amended, and the West Bridgewater Wetland Protection Bylaw Rules and Regulations. West Bridgewater Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing for a notice of intent for an upgrade to a septic system for a single-family home within 100 feet of a bordered vegetative wetland. And we're open?
Alrighty. Again, for the record, Peter Lyons with Collins Engineering Group. This is another septic repair on a failed residential septic. We have wetlands around the house going towards the back of the property. The 50-foot buffer cuts through the driveway out front, and the 100-foot buffer falls towards South Street. This one, we're looking to replace the existing tank and leaching in the pretty much right in front of the house. And we are able to, in this one, keep all the new components outside the 100-foot buffer. So we're proposing a gravity run to a septic tank and a pump chamber, and then an elevated leaching bed outside the 100-foot buffer towards South Street. This one, there'll be some minor vegetation clearing outside of the 100-foot buffer, and probably along the gravity sewer line run itself. We've got erosion control wrapping around pretty much the whole edge of the driveway containing the project, and then an additional erosion control work limit line to the north of the project, and then that ties in with the lot line. This one, we've got conservation posts again proposed along the wetland line to the rear of the property. Soil stockpiling area for the digging, that's located outside the 100-foot buffer. And the dewatering pit location is also outside the 100-foot buffer. So,
I'll ask it again, are they selling the house?
yes.
John, any questions, comments on this one?
Yes, there is a drainage swale that runs along the property line from up near South Street to the rear of the existing house here. And the abutter has indicated that he has some concerns about the grading and how that will impact that swale. There's a number of trees, as you can see, that are along what is most likely the swale in there. So I think what we need to do is, if you're going to approve this project, that the order conditions will require a definite swale to be constructed with the finished grading that will direct the water so it doesn't impact the abutter at 131, is it? Yeah, 131. Yep. The original lot was created as a one-lot subdivision where you can see the look of a cul-de-sac drawn in here. So the property line for the cul-de-sac is theoretically through here, but it's all owned by the same person. So it was a matter of creating what is actually an illusion of a subdivision to be able to get the house in there due to the fact it didn't have 150-foot frontage. So they did indicate, in one of the reviews by, I went back and looked at the history on this lot, and they had a review engineer recommend a drainage swale along here. And so that's where, which does match up with what was claimed by the owner of 131. And so that's why I feel that we need to make sure that that works. And I'm gonna have to be kind of creative in the writing of the order of conditions, so that that comes across as part of the final conditions of construction.
So it probably was constructed when the project originally happened, and it just wasn't maintained properly over the last 30, 40, 50
Exactly, that's
years.
probably why a lot of these trees are in
The
here.
vegetation's come up.
There's debris out there that's come down from tree cutting and wood chips, so it's kind of impeding the flow.
Mhm.
And it is a raised system, so there is a legitimate concern to make sure it doesn't impact the abutter at 131.
All right, anybody here? Comments, questions? Commissioners, any questions on this one?
What was the original one on that? Just a, it was a system, right?
Well, there's an original tank that's being decommissioned up near the house.
Yeah,
But
it's
there was a,
kinda-
really any field, or was it just a leaching
Yeah,
pit?
it's kind of the same concept of what's going on now. The old tank's right in front of the house, and then it does run out towards the proposed leaching. There are some gray dashed lines that show it.
But that's gonna be all new up front by the road. There's
Yeah.
nothing ever up there.
There is an existing leaching. up
Oh, there is,
now, yeah.
okay, there is.
Yep.
Alright.
Yeah, right about.
So you'll be
where-
removing some old
We
material
will,
from
yep.
out.
Right about where the proposed tanks are is where the existing leaching area is. See where it says OHW, right around where your mouse is? That's kind of centered in the existing leaching area.
Okay, okay, you can,
Yeah.
all right, yeah. it's-
OHW.
Yep. Okay.
What you gonna do with
All right. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, then I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
it? I'll make the motion.
Oh, Steve?
You made the motion on that one, so moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Alright.
So moved.
Who was the second? Fine, okay.
And I'll entertain a motion to issue an order of conditions with John's noted requirement for the swale to be installed.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Alright.
So moved. All set.
You do one more?
And what's the next one you've got?
50 South Street or 50 Matfield?
50 Matfield?
No, unfortunately, it's 21 Lincoln Street.
Okay.
We have 21 Lincoln Street here.
Yes.
I'm gonna ask if
They
they don't mind waiting and letting him finish so that he can be totally out of here and gone for the evening. That would be, okay, I'm getting a nod, yes.
I'll be quick.
That being said, I will open 50 Matfield Street under the Wetland Protection Act, 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law as amended, and the West Bridgewater Conservation Commission Wetland Bylaw Rules and Regulations. The Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing June 15th for a request for determination of applicability for an upgrading of a system within 100 feet of a BVW, and we're open.
All right, for the record, still Peter Lyons with Collins Engineering Group, representing the homeowner. This is a about 60-foot by 250-foot lot. We have a wetland across Matfield Street, so the 50-foot buffer is pretty much our front lot line. The 100-foot buffer cuts through the front deck. We are replacing the existing system with a 1,500-gallon gravity tank and a 14 by 25 foot leaching bed
50 foot's right
out in
here,
the front.
100 foot's here. That's all
We have
outside.
erosion control along the street. The house slopes down from the house towards the road. There's no soils or anything going towards
Oliver
the
Street,
back,
and
so
this is
just
Matt
one
Field.
single erosion line out front.
And the driveway's up the side.
We show silt sacks in the catch basins out in the road,
50-foot buffers.
and again, the wetlands
And
across the
100's right
street,
here,
so.
where the deck is. So this is in between the 50 and the 100. So it's in a jurisdiction, but not in the 50.
The site slopes way up to the back, so by putting it out front, that's our only chance to keep it a gravity system, avoiding a pump.
John, any comments on this one?
I recommend approval. Recommend issuing a -3 determination.
And it doesn't look like the elevation's gonna change much more than a foot or two.
No, it's not. We have a 100-inch groundwater out there, so we got plenty of room to work with. So it'll more just be kind of leveling off the front yard as it is.
Anybody here in the audience, questions, comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And I will entertain a motion to issue a -3.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you.
That's it. All right, thank you.
All right. Next, we have 21 Lincoln Street. 21 Lincoln, if they want to, I think she's out in the hall. While she's getting set up, I will read into the record, under the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law is amended, and the West Bridgewater Wetland Bylaw Rules and Regulations, Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing for a notice of intent for 21 Lincoln Street for the construction of a warehouse, parking structure, utilities, drainage, associated work within 100 feet of a wetland. And it will also include the West Bridgewater General Stormwater Management Permit application and comprehensive stormwater management regulations. We're open.
This is interesting. Good evening, Rebecca from Silver Engineering, representing Di Bartolo and their design plan for a 350,000 square foot warehouse on Lincoln Street. The parcel is roughly 74 acres. Of those 74 acres, about 50 of them are actually uplands. For the most part, we have actually adhered to the 50-foot no-touch. There's a few questionable areas that I'd like to discuss with the commission. We have met stormwater requirements for water quality through the use of sediment forebays. We have one specialty water quality treatment unit. We've met the requirements for pre versus post, where all of our drainage is going through these basins to mitigate and slow down the water as it actually heads towards underneath Route 24 in a culvert that we have. We're showing a shared septic system up on the Lincoln Street side, up in the West Center Street side of Lincoln. Yeah, you can't see it with that video. That one. Could you bring up page 2? 3. We have approved ANRAD for this. I didn't know if the commission had any questions. We are going through the MESA file. I have not heard from them. I have heard that it is the Blandings turtle. So we have actually showed a fence as they have requested elsewhere for Blandings turtle. We embed the fence so the turtles don't climb into the development and accidents happen. We have a very large snow storage area for all of this pavement. Didn't know if the commission wanted to ask questions?
Okay, one thing I will say before we get into the question part.
Yeah.
There will be other hearings with other departments, planning board, zoning board, everybody else I'm sure is gonna have a say in a piece of pie. This, what we're dealing with is just the stormwater and the conservation regulations. In the past, we have allowed, if the applicant wants to answer other questions, to try to get them all out, since we're the first ones up most of the time. So you don't have to go to a bunch of other meetings, other nights. If you can get a quick question answered here, that was what you're looking for. I don't have a problem with that, if they're willing to go that route. I know we will probably have to have a 53G because this is such a large project.
I assumed as much.
John, do you have anything off the bat?
We don't have a DEP file number yet.
No, it was submitted in an email a little bit later than we gave it to you, and they had a question this afternoon that I've answered. I would expect the DEP number soon, but yes, I know.
But we were gonna have to continue it for that and for having an independent third party review the drainage. There's nothing that we decide tonight other than sending it out to a 53G reviewer can be done definitively tonight, but while everyone is here, it would be probably a good idea to talk about some of the issues that the abutters might have for concerns.
I got a question. You said it was 70-something acres?
It is, it's 73.87.
And how many acres you said you figure out to use?
We're gonna use about 47.9.
That's after everything, you figure after everything's all done? Okay.
I do have a couple quick questions, because John thankfully did send the plan out in time, so I did get to take a look at it. I believe it's Plan 7B, or 7D, that we got sent. It looked like there was some areas that you have proposed work within the 50-foot.
Yes, that is what I would like to discuss.
And we generally,
Yes.
unless there's a really big extenuating circumstance, frown on work within the 50-foot.
Yes, so which place in particular? We are really only needing, wanting, asking the discharge from that large basin in the back, where we're actually trying to discharge into the existing drainage ditch. So if you bring it up on the screen where you...
You want the other one up?
Okay, I think C is that one, and then there were two spots on D that I saw, it looked like there were little bump outs.
Some of it was just grading, and we can show a 2-to-1 with some more jute mat. We can show retaining walls, but the one we really would love the commission to talk about, discuss, compromise, however we want to use that, is the one near the drainage basin.
That drainage basin big enough for this project?
The really big one.
This is,
I mean, I don't know how big it is. I mean, is it something you're gonna have to, you wanna tie into it, you said?
It's, yeah, if you can bring up the right one, maybe.
Which one do you want?
Let's see. I know, it's right on the middle. Let's see. Can't really see it on that one. Let's try.
I think it's C, John. C? Is that the one where the
2.2.
two swales come together and you have to kind of do the drainage culverts between them?
2.2. I don't know how you have them labeled. Oh, that's the one.
Yep.
Can we zoom in?
Yep.
I'm assuming you're talking
Yeah.
that area, yeah.
Yeah, so right now, it's an existing ditch and it has an existing culvert. And so
Yeah.
the culvert's undersized for what we're trying to do. So this culvert and this ditch actually take a lot of the flow coming from the back of those house lots on Lincoln Street. Forgive me if I don't remember the addresses. So we're actually trying to culvert underneath our drive, and then we're trying to culvert underneath this other culvert for the drainage. And in the process of doing this cross culvert, the one down at the bottom, we're trying to get into the ditch, and so we're impeding on the 50-foot no touch. This whole area is impeding on the 50-foot no
Yep.
touch.
Yep.
So the only way to get to the usable area of the uplands is to impact the 50-foot here. We would like to discuss how the commission would like to handle this. This is really only good for drainage as opposed to trying to get more parking or more pavement back there. So I know the commission frowns on it. It only benefits being able to use this for drainage.
It's drainage now.
It's an upland area and there's a ditch that separates the upland where the building will be and the upland where this will be. And previous proposals, back when it was going to be a retail, always showed a pad site there. We're going to cross into it somehow. Here, we're only trying to do
This is the area here.
Drainage.
in this upland in the drainage on that side.
In order to get to there, you gotta.
Right, in order to get to here,
And
they
to do
have
that, we
this,
would improve the ditch.
with, back when the farmer probably was using it as farming, he created this
Yeah.
to try to drain this area to get
Drain the
more
upland.
So
upland.
how big is that area you figure you're gonna, if you wanna try to get to the other side to make the
100 feet.
100 feet wide?
Yeah, from this, from one wetland point to the other
Yeah,
is
it's
probably
over
about
100,
100
yeah.
feet.
So is what, is it wet right now, or is it kinda like,
The ditch or
yeah,
the?
well, is the whole, it's,
It's
wet.
It's very.
everything's all.
Either
wet?
side of it is,
It's always
and so
wet.
there,
It springs back there.
There was 3 ponds back there before.
we would typically look at doing some type of mitigation,
Yes.
replication somewhere on the site.
I have a couple
probably have
places.
area
Yes.
that we
There's
can-
areas that we can, yes.
Because my other question was on Plan D, it looked like some of the sloping for cut into the 50-foot, and I was curious
Those aren't as
if you can
critical as
bring up,
which page?
let's see, John, Plan D, it would be
D?
D.
D
yeah.
as in dog.
D as in dog.
Okay.
And
So, yeah, I
I believe it's here
Yeah.
and in this area here, I think, were two areas that looked like where the 50-foot line was.
So that area here, we're actually gonna do a 2-to-1 with a proposed jute to stabilize. If it went over the line, it was an accident. It's not meant to be.
Yeah, it was actually this one here, if you look.
Yeah, we're
It's
slightly.
it's close, but when you blow it up and actually
Yep.
get into it.
And there's a couple of little spaces I noticed along the way that they will be brought in. We will either use walls or
Okay.
be 2-to-1.
And that upper corner wasn't
What?
as much of an encroachment as the one at the
Yeah.
lower end.
Yeah, there was. I did notice that as well. If I
Yeah,
can throw
you just-
Larry under the bus, I will, but I won't.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right here was
No,
the
we're
wetland
gonna-
line and,
We're gonna fix that.
okay, all right. I figured it was just an oversight or something.
Would you say you're gonna put like
A
retaining wall?
well, when it's not so encroached, I
Yeah.
do a 2-to-1 and then just jute mat for stabilization to minimize, or we can do a riprap for stabilization. Or if it came down to a wall, but I don't think that southern side warrants a wall, we would just push the hill back.
Oh, okay.
John, do you have any questions?
Yes. There's a country drain system that's along Lincoln Street,
Yes.
and according to this, it looks as if you have a closed contour here, which implies that you're going to take the water in this area and go north,
Go north, yep.
and then when you get up near the butter on the northerly part, you're going to dogleg to the left
Yes.
and take it all the way down. I know there's been proposals to improve parts of Lincoln Street,
Yes.
but that's quite a steep slope from West Center all the way down, and you're going to get some runoff into this country drain, and having it so flat as it appears to be according to the
Yes.
drawing, it's going to be some standing water in there. Just recently, it's come to light that there's an actual culvert in that area that runs into the Russo property and into some wetlands. And I haven't got a chance to get by there to see it, but it's something that we need to investigate
Yes.
a lot more closely
Okay.
to see if that would be adequate to handle the runoff and possibly prevent this whole country drain from just being one standing bit of water while you have a lot of storms, and hoping that it gets north and then west and then into the wetland drain system. And I understand what you're doing, but I don't think that the residential properties would like to see standing water in there any more than what is happening now without developing the site.
Nope, understood.
Is that drain that goes into to Russo's, is that working now? Is that
Don't know, but
Don't know.
it's only just come to light the other day that
still
there,
working? Is it plugged, you think?
It's across the street from my house.
Is it plugged, do you think, so it's not working that way?
I
That way?
believe I've been trying to get how to fix and get this, the pipe is actually broken in my backyard.
Oh,
So the water slowly goes out to the wetlands out back.
okay.
But when they put it in, I believe back when they were growing corn and all the other things, somehow this got in. There's a pipe cemented in there, goes under Lincoln Street, goes under my property, and goes out.
So
I
which-
don't know how many are broken.
which
I
property?
get a ton of water in my cellar. all the
Yeah,
time.
that's all ponds when it rains.
It's
heavy.
terrible
Yeah.
how much water is at that end
Yeah.
of
So what's your address, sir?
124.
124.
It's right by the mailbox.
So maybe if that was
I know
fixed,
right
we'd get
where it
over
is.
to a point.
Someone said they know where it is?
No, where that pipe is, what I call it.
So if you think that was working right, there wouldn't be that much water there?
I believe so, because when I first moved in, it seemed to work.
Okay.
I'm telling you,
Yeah.
3 years ago, there was this much water after a bunch of rainstorms across the street.
Okay, John, anything else?
Not at this time, but
Okay.
it definitely needs
Yep,
a
something to
thorough
look-
review.
Yeah.
That being said, I will open it up. Anybody have questions, comments?
I have one. In the very beginning, John, I believe, mentioned a 53G plan. Would you mind explaining what that is?
Okay, 53G is an outside consultant hired on the behalf of the Conservation Commission, paid for by the applicant to review the plans. So it's another set of eyes besides ours, John's, and the design engineer to take a look at it and see if everything is gonna work and should work, and find hopefully any glitches, problems, or things that might be able to be worked out a little bit better.
And who hires this consultant, you or the developer?
Commission.
The commission.
Commission does,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Typically, especially on one this size, we would send out for a proposal from multiple other engineering firms. And then we'd get them back, and then we'd look at them and see price-wise and
You bet.
figure out which one works the best and can do it in the time frame we need. I will say, I think you would agree that engineering firms right now are straight out and busier than can be, and
No, I wouldn't say that at all.
getting them to call you is even gonna be a challenge, so.
Oh, yes.
But we have some we've normally worked with that hopefully will jump on board fairly quick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Question for you. Where are the entrances to this gonna be on Lincoln Street? At 21?
Right there and right here.
And that's across from Russo's, the second one, right?
This is across from Russo's, this is across from, I only have names, De Silva, 5126.
Right.
I don't have
Well,
that.
we live at 17 Lincoln,
Do I have a name?
Beauchamp.
It's Connor.
17 Lincoln,
On the other side?
on the other side.
Oh,
right there.
thank you. I need one of those. Okay, so you're, okay.
Okay, so my question is this, are they gonna use that existing entrance back into the fields, the ones right by Dempsey's?
This one right over here,
Yeah,
at the moment?
yeah, no, so it's gonna be 21 and then down across from
Yes.
Russo's. Okay, in the back, if you would've go, when they did the perk test,
Right
they
here.
perked it right by the road.
Right here.
I know, but
Okay.
that's gonna perk. If you
Yes.
go back about 100 feet, maybe 150 feet, it will not perk.
Correct, we struggled
Because
to get
it's
that.
all, that's all
Yep.
wetlands back there.
That's where the good soils were, that's why that septic is right there. Yes.
And how are you gonna mitigate water flow from coming into, like, say, our property or anything like that?
We're showing a swale right here and a berm. So we're gonna leave, there's a good buffer, and you don't see it here because it's gonna be a planning board, but there is a vegetation where, there's a landscape plan. So there'll be.
Well, there's a stone wall back
We're
there
not touching
now.
the stone wall. The green line right in here, I don't know if you can see it from where you are, is your property and the stone wall. About 20 foot here, a lot more in here, this is about 50 feet. not touching, and it's gonna be graded with a berm. The berm will keep the water out, this swale will allow this water in.
This whole swale.
And then we have a culvert right here, so it'll allow the water to pass
Way
through.
down to here. and
I
feed
noticed
this
on the
culvert.
maps you had before, it said you're
Then
using
will
jute.
drain to here.
Jute mat, yep.
Jute matting? Okay, what's the lifespan of that jute matting?
It doesn't need to
Yeah,
last
take-
forever, it just needs to last long enough for the grass to start growing and for rain not to not wash it off. So you don't get the ruts that you normally see when you just plant it, it rains. So that is just a, yeah, fancy burlap type
Yeah,
material.
just to cover it.
Right, so it'll last 6 months, but long enough for the grass to stabilize and the hill not to wash out. And it's way in the back, you guys don't even see it.
Right, my biggest concern was like light pollution, stuff like that.
Yep, I didn't bring a lighting plan, that's because that's a planning board
Right.
conversation, June 30th. So lighting, we do show, there's not a lot of lighting. We have landscaping too, there's buffers we're gonna keep and buffers we're gonna add with vegetation. So for the most part, you will be, with their 50-foot buffer, a lot of the vegetation will remain.
But this is open 24/7, this
It is.
facility?
Yes.
And you're saying there's not a lot of lighting, but if it's 24/7, all the trucks coming in.
There's not
and
no
out.
lighting.
No, I
Lighting
understand
is
that.
pointed this way, so the intent would be not to glare onto abutting properties. And again, we have a plan, we presented the planning board for that,
June 30th.
for that conversation.
When there's no leaves on the
So-
trees, they close.
So just, first time really seeing that drainage, so where's most of the drain water going? All between 24 and the property?
South, west to 24, yes. Yeah, there's a culvert, large culvert underneath 24. In here. So all of it will come down and come in here, and then whatever doesn't go here will go down further towards like South Elm. It's a massive wetlands way down there.
Right, that's where we
Well,
are.
that's where we are.
There's a massive
Right.
wetlands down there, yes.
Yeah.
So,
However,
So on that
More
note,
water.
explain.
the drainage.
the- Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So, part of the design of this huge thing you see here is to take the flow coming off of all this pavement and hold it for a certain amount of time so that you don't see the impact. I have to actually make it less than what's going there now. So these ponds, basins, are built such that they hold all that water from going your way. So it's slowly gonna end that way, and it should be less impact than what you experience now. Not a lot, but enough where you don't see this deluge of water. You're not gonna see that. It's gonna be all in here, and then it just slowly finds its way back into the wetlands.
naturally.
How
Natural.
deep will those be?
That one's about 6 feet.
So the one on the,
But it
in the-
doesn't-
the one on the front of the property towards Lincoln Street,
No.
across from the park? with
Absolutely
the
not, no.
recreational field?
Nope, that
Does
was.
that need to be fenced off for the
That
kids?
is not that big. Actually, it's very shallow. It's only about 3 feet, and I say that because there's a freeboard. There's a magic number that you're supposed to have for safety. So I have a 1-foot freeboard where I'm not supposed to have any of my models reach. So it's actually only gonna have 2 feet of water at most. If the town wishes for a fence, that's up to the town to discuss. I normally don't like fences, only because it makes it harder to rescue, because now you're jumping a fence.
Right, there's a,
I
You know
totally,
what's going across the
it's
street,
both
right?
sides, I know, it's, you got both sides of the story, it's whichever way the town wants to go.
okay.
But yes, that's not nearly as deep as those in the back.
So as far as when you're doing construction,
Yep.
so I'm down on South Elm right now.
Yeah, I was trying to get to
And I'm getting
that.
killed by Lamppost Estates water from construction. And I don't know if I can deal with water from this at the same time once you
Well,
guys.
you
sign
were
off
very
on it.
close to Lamppost, I don't even have it, I don't even go that far down. This,
I abut both of you.
oh, you see, you're in here?
Yeah, I'm down there.
Yeah. It's-
So what kind of measures are you gonna take during construction to make sure that water isn't getting down there?
All the standard precautions, I mean,
What are they?
you create the basins first as part of the stormwater so that you contain it before it gets off site. You're here. So let me see where we are.
Right
So-
here. Would you go back to that?
Yeah, I can do that, okay.
Right here.
Okay.
So your water's gonna be coming down here, and this is Lamppost Estates,
Yeah.
right here?
Right,
And they're currently they cleared out all the trees and everything?
yeah, we don't have
So
any
I'm
trees to
getting-
clear, so all the, there's still trees, so half the battle's right there, so.
Right.
um,
I'm just saying, I'm seeing more water than usual right now, I don't wanna see any more.
I understand. I'd like to say you won't, but I can't. You shouldn't see more water. You have quite the swath
Yeah.
of vegetation in between us and that, where you shouldn't see the impacts.
If I might just add in that the purpose for the independent drainage
Yes.
review is to check that they have designed this so that the increase in runoff from the developed portion of this land does not increase impacts to the
I mean,
wetland.
that's, I'm sorry.
And so having the independent person check it and assure the commission that that's not gonna happen should protect the wetlands and the abutters. And if it's not built according to what is designed, they don't receive their certificate of compliance from the commission. So we ask, as part of the approval, a full as-built of the drain system afterwards, and the certification that it is in accordance with it, and then that gets reviewed. So say they did not create that basin in such a way as to prevent the runoff from impacting you in the wetlands, we wouldn't issue the certificate. So we're trying to throw in all these safeguards for protecting the environment and also to lessen or stop any impact on the neighbors. From the environmental point of view, what you have to do though is and I'm stepping out of line here a little bit, but you kind of left the door open at the beginning. Make sure you go to the other approving authorities, and it probably will be the planning board. I don't think it'll be zoning because this is zoned industrial for this, so it's a matter of right, but they still have to go through a site plan review. You don't want the light from this project to be like the light on Pleasant Street on the big blue building.
Yeah, that
that
shines in my backyard.
From 24, it looks like it's amazing,
But
and
if
from
you-
Pleasant Street, it looks amazing.
But if
and
you
everybody-
notice though, if you,
What is that? So ask that not happen to you, and that's a good example to point out. We don't want that for Lincoln Street.
and if you notice, like those buildings there, 3 of those lights on that side are shut off all the time now because of, I think, of the light pollution.
The complaint.
The complaints and everything. It's
Yeah.
funny, I noticed it myself not too long after they put everything in, it's like, it was bright, then it's shut off.
Oh, good.
I can't blame them, so.
I just have to ask, how is these warehouses going to benefit West Bridgewater?
Be good revenue for the town.
How would that be?
What's it used for now?
I'd rather see houses.
I wouldn't.
Housing is impact on schools.
Yeah, housing
No,
is.
that's okay.
That's
To a
good.
point,
That's-
but I'd
They still
rather,
pay
Kids
taxes.
and families.
we need zoning in this town, I think, if revenue adds that way.
Well,
I
That's my
thought the
point.
town had a fund to buy up farmland though. So we established
No, they
5
bought
years
a
ago.
golf course instead.
Can I ask a question? I heard that whoever goes into this warehouse would not be required to pay taxes for the first 5 years. Is that true?
So there's a proposal in front of the town, and it may have been approved, I don't know, it's not part of our daily work, but they have this thing called a tax incentive program, I guess it is, where the developer will reconstruct and relocate Lincoln Street, put signals in at the developer's cost. And because the town can't afford to do that, to improve what needs to be done up on Lincoln Street and West Center, they don't have that money, so the developer's doing it for them, and as a trade-off, they are going to have a certain number of years where they won't be taxed the full amount, and then after that time period's over, the developer's property gets taxed at the full commercial
So we're
rate.
paying for it
Right.
alone.
Well, they'll probably leave after 5 years, close up and go somewhere else.
It's the same company that built the building on Elm Street. in
That's correct.
Bridgewater,
Yeah.
Which is still empty
Right.
after 2 years.
I don't know that for a
It's
fact, but
empty.
it's.
It's locked, you can't get in there.
That's one of our only consolations, is that taxes could go down.
They never go down.
But they're not gonna,
No.
especially for us who are, already 65 years old.
Right.
Can I see that first page of the drawing in front of, the first page, when we're looking at the address?
That one?
Yes. So, what's this right here? That goes down to, that's Salton.
Yes.
So what are they gonna do right there?
That,
That's just
they've
part of the
highlighted
property,
it
that's
to
yours?
show that's the property, yeah.
So where, on this drawing, where is that roughly in? Right there?
Is the commission gonna try to purchase that land?
To do what?
Is the commission gonna try to purchase that land? Thought I heard you guys talking about purchasing that land. One of the last ones.
So the discussion in past meetings has been to purchase some residual land around the Scotland Street 40B development area, so this was not part of it. And that didn't pan out. Somebody went to auction and bought it, and we had some ideas on how we could benefit from the auction, but it didn't pan out. Somebody paid a lot more money than what they should have for some really marginal land.
Excuse me, can I ask something? So they get a tax incentive for putting a traffic light on West Center of Lincoln Street, and gonna cause more traffic, but bringing in a bigger building with nothing but vehicles coming in, causing even more traffic, and they're not gonna pay us for 5 years. And potentially these people could have bad drainage in their house, because we don't know how it's gonna work. I'm assuming they do their job, obviously, but we don't really know. Maybe kill some turtles in the meantime. But tax incentive for,
So what's the difference if you put it in a big subdivision?
no, I'm just asking and stuff like that. No, you're 100% right. It is literally the same exact thing, and causes more people, more traffic, etc., and would have to.
You wouldn't have the big trucks.
I understand.
Yeah, no, I'm just out of curiosity and stuff.
Yeah.
There's cars on streets 24/7 all the time.
100%, especially in
Either
that
way,
area.
you're gonna get
it's-
screwed either way, it seems
Really,
like.
our cars.
And unfortunately, at least this way, I'm looking at, you're getting 2 warehouses versus another 90 or 120 house lots like
Oh,
on
100%.
Scotland
I
Street,
get nobody.
which aren't gonna improve the traffic flow, aren't gonna improve the lights. And you've already got that traffic coming up from Scotland Street, you're gonna have to deal with it at the end of Lincoln Street somehow, sometime. And if this can all be engineered and done right to help plan for
I
that.
mean, I think, well, how much do the, streetlights cost, like the one in, it's like $1 million, I heard somebody say, to put in streetlights, so. That one on Howard Street, they just put that in, I believe
So
the town did,
now
right?
it's-
So you figure that's $1 million right there.
Yep.
So that's, where's that coming from? Or where's that money gonna come from? Us,
Mhm.
taxpayers, so at least these guys that take care of the road and the streetlight. Granted, I know some people don't want the trucks and building, but either way, you gotta
One way
give
or
and take a
another.
little bit, I don't know, it's all on how you look at it, I guess.
Has the town council looked into how many lights you can have on a stretch of road? I think there's a law that says it's gotta be so far from the highway interchange.
I don't know if they have. Again, it's outside our department, but, we're not always privy to all the different discussions that go on in other departments. So, I mean, you'd hope that we all know these answers, but honestly, I haven't heard anything in the view, no.
Is this thing gonna be on a town vote, like at, when you go and vote for who you're gonna vote for?
So-
Could it be
So town.
not a town meeting,
Town
a
election.
town election? This is so big, that it should not be left up to 98 people that say yeah, and 23 people that say no. it should not be left up to just those people. It should be the town voting, the whole town. I've lived here all my life, and I'm devastated by this, devastated. It's a nightmare.
So I believe that at town meeting, they voted to rezone it, so that was the only chance to prevent something like this, and it passed.
And it passed.
And when they took that vote, no, it was not counted. The
That's
votes-
correct.
The guy,
Right.
the moderator stood up and said, oh, the yeas have it.
Yeah, they
I
didn't
wish I
count.
had stood up. I was there, and afterwards I was.
I was in shock.
I
I
should
was
have
in
stood
shock.
up and said, I'd like those votes counted. It didn't look like,
It
it was clear
They should
at
have
all
been
to me
counted.
that it was. yeah.
So this is being reviewed now by the environmental, Department of Environmental Protection and Energy, which is a state level review for environmental impact. And they're going through the process right now, and the Secretary of Environmental Affairs will either issue a decision that they don't need to do an environmental impact, or they might be able to do a shortened version of a full impact. And that will require certain things from the developer. The Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program, as a result of them filing a notice of intent, will be reviewing the project to protect the endangered species that are on this site. The Mass Endangered Species Program will issue some things, and for example, on the Scotland Street 40B, the developer had to go through the same that this developer is going to go through, and the NISA program, the Department of Agricultural Resources, all forced that developer to mitigate impacts on agricultural land and also on the endangered species. And the town benefited from that 40B because they had to protect 110 acres as compensation for being allowed to develop where they are putting those houses in now off of Scotland Street. So I'm guessing that possibly something like this is going to develop, because that's prime agricultural land that's now going to go out of agricultural use, and the Department of Agricultural Resources is not going to be happy about that. So they'll have their 2 cents to say about this environmental impact statement that's being reviewed right now. But not anyone else but this commission is going to approve this project, and I believe the site plan review by the planning board is only a advisory type thing, so it's not like it needs a special permit. I'm not an expert on the planning board, so I'm only going from experience, but I don't believe there's anything that they can do to prevent this. So this is the only regulatory group that can stop this thing if they were inclined to do it, but it would have to be for just cause. You just can't say no, and you'd be liable for something like that. So this commission won't do that, but we'll do similar to what we did with the 40B project, and have many pages of requirements that this developer will have to do to fit the conditions that we impose upon it. And that's about the best that we can do. And and I haven't seen it yet in my preliminary review of this project, I haven't seen anything that's a negative, not negative, a game stopper for this developer. They've spent some considerable time designing this to try to meet every requirement and not just throw something at us and then have us find fault with it. They've really put some thought into this. And I'm not saying this because I particularly like Rebecca or her firm. It's just that I've looked at the plans. I've looked at the plans and said they really didn't want to get denied. So they tried to design this thing as best they could with with everything in mind that we would normally find fault with. And so the third independent party reviewer for the commission will verify all of this, and that's the best that we're going to do. So that's a long answer to, there's probably no other way to voice your opinion other than to come to meetings like this and state them, and hopefully we'll incorporate conditions that will try to protect you as best we can and the environment. And the same with the planning board. You have to talk to them so that you don't get the light pollution, you don't get traffic going the wrong way on the street. You might want to impose conditions of some sort, and they might be able to do that, I don't know. But your words need to be heard by them as well.
I have a question. This one is for our Conservation Commission yourselves. Sitting here tonight and hearing the other hearings that have been here, it was amazing to me that a small developer can get away with some of the things you've gotten away with. And I just would like to be assured by our Conservation Commission, as good as you are and you're wonderful, that if this doesn't work out, which this young lady has proposed, and these people get water in their basement and everything else that can happen, do you feel confident that you have the resources, bylaws, fines, whatever, to deal with these problems?
I might offer an answer. Every day is a learning process for this commission and me.
Okay.
And we throw up, sometimes throw up, really. No. We put up a condition that we think is going to protect somebody like Ston, who came here tonight, and he's pigeonholed into a almost unusable piece of property. So the commission's tried to do some things to prevent that. So they throw up these requirements, and there's always seems to be a way around them, or that they get ignored. I'm going to propose as one of the conditions, and it's just my recommendation, they haven't voted, that a compliance inspector for the commission is out there seeing that this is being constructed exactly the way it's been designed, that it's not a suggestion to the developer, that it's absolute, and this compliance inspector would be paid for by the developer through the commission. So it's not, he's not working, he or she is not working for the developer, but on our behalf, but paid by the developer. And that's something new that hasn't been done in the past, and it's because we see what goes on at these projects that by the time you catch up with the developer, he's already 5 steps ahead of you, and it's hard to go back and make him do things that we wanted him to do first when he's already 5 ahead.
Yeah. And I don't think this is going to be the last project that West Bridgewater is going to be dealing with. We seem to be getting hit with the one up by Honeydew, the one on Scotland Street. We're getting hit by a lot of ways. So I just, as a resident, I would like to feel confident that you have the resources that you need to be able to handle this.
I will
guess
admit,
that's
one of
a-
the things that the town did that was ahead of the curve was getting our stormwater bylaw. And that has more teeth in it than people realize. And it gives us some resources and ways to go back after the fact if there is a failure, something doesn't work as designed.
And to be honest with you, for the time I've been on, even the last couple of years, just being picky and choosy of just house lots to something like this, I haven't agreed on things that I said, no, I don't like it, but the commission's agreed on it, so that's fine. I'm not gonna hold anything against them. But living in town, I never thought half these houses where they are would be able to be put where they are. Considering it for wetland, but I understand what they're doing of learning how to, like I said, every meeting's a learning thing, but you can't tell what the next homeowner is gonna come in who buys a house and we can put up all we want to put up and say this and that, and they're gonna go and do whatever they want, and then we look like the bad person. And we're not trying to do that, but so we don't want to be, we're gonna fine you $100 a day until you do this, and they'll be like, well, this place is just, or whatever.
This is my point, because
We are trying to do the best we can, and.
What is that bond gonna be?
What's that?
What is that bond going to be? 5 million?
So we can only bond for let me back up. We now are requiring a bond for assure us that we're gonna get a certificate of compliance request. Because some of the developers are very rich, deep pockets, and don't need the banks. Surprising, but there are some out there. And so they have recorded the order of conditions at the Registry of Deeds as one of the requirements, and never asked for a certificate of compliance, which closes out the environmental lien on that property, so that if they were refinancing, usually a bank would say, hey, wait a minute, we can't give you money until there is a certificate of compliance issue. We found that was being skipped by certain projects, and so now we require a bond to assure that we're going to get the request for a certificate of compliance. It would be sizable for this one, and we haven't even established an amount yet for something like this, but typically for subdivisions, it could be as high as $20,000. And that, well, for a subdivision, you know, some developers would say, take it, we don't care. It's a loss anyway, so we'll give you the 20. But, where was I headed with this? So, we can't really bond anything unless it's for that or for work that's not completed. That's the only two places that.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Can I say something? When you say this project here, a bond for him, he wants his project done. So when you're talking bond, I've been in this town for a long time. I remember when they talked bonds, when people would get up in the 80s, like you're talking about a development. If I'm not, if I'm out of order, I'll shut up. But they'd put up a small bond, and they wouldn't finish the development. The development might just say, use these fake numbers, 100,000 to finish, my bond's only 10,000, you go finish. And then walk away, open up under another name, and build somewhere else. The developments, I'll step out of line for a second, I'll get back in line. You guys, I don't know, what's this, a conservation committee?
Yes.
You guys done a good job. I had to come up 8 years ago when I built my house back in '86 to back then. But I'm just saying, people have to be held to their feet, because the farm road across the street from me is not even complete. The developer already walked away. Talk to tenants, residents that live there. This guy here is gonna finish this project. He'll get, I'm surprised. This town really sold out the residents on this project for what they're doing to get it. I believe. Not saying that you guys have nothing to do with it. Upstairs in selectmen's meeting, Dave Gaggy knew what was going in that into this property, and he sold it to the town. The same we should have did this secret ballot at the special town meeting they had for it, then it would have been shot down. But they knew this trucker was coming in here. It was negotiated. They knew. They said you have to do A, B, and C. They will sign the deal. I blame nothing on you guys. I've been here. This town's going to grow whether you like it or not. I've been in here for a long time. Some people have been longer. But I'm just saying, the traffic's going nowhere. Now, what we're doing for this guy here, up there on 106, and that was a town grant. They got shot down. Now we're going on the other end and giving them this. So, but here, you guys do your job. That's what you're here for. Do what's right. And one last question. When are they going to do this project from start to finish? When are they going to start it? When's everything's...
They're going to start as soon as permits are.
So when's that? November, December?
Sooner if they can.
So you're talking ASAP then?
Right.
And then how long for completion?
It shouldn't take more than 18 months. 18 months at most.
How many?
18 months.
18 months?
About a year and a half, maybe less.
But they're not going to screw the town. Town should get the most they ought to, but I think they, up in that selectman's office, they should have known more, which I know they did. I can't say the three that are elected, but Dave Gagne knew what was going in that site. There's no doubt, and I hope I'm on tape, because he knew what was going there. That's why he was so hard up to sell that at the last meeting. He almost had a heart attack, went to a secret ballot.
You had a question?
You had mentioned about this pipe. Are you going to address that? Are you guys going to look into that? That's...
Yes, I know it's on John's radar to look at, and...
We'll probably go out and visit the site, survey it, whatever it takes to find the pipe, locate it, show it on a plan.
Okay, because it's, that would...
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing I will say on a project like this is we are, in a way, lucky in West Bridgewater that we have a 50-foot no-touch and we have our bylaw, because if this was a 40B housing project, we would have no jurisdiction on this at all.
Except for the wetland.
I mean, they would go right up to the wetland line, and that's all we have to deal with. So thankfully, this town had foresight many years ago to put that bylaw in place. So we have the additional 50 feet and 100 feet jurisdiction to watch for.
That's not a big project, that's just a big building. I mean, you look out the town, you got Lowe's, you got Chiltie's, you got this, that, you put them together, it'd be bigger than that project. But this is all in one area. Unfortunately, all the shit's gonna go out onto Lincoln Street or whatever. And you lived there for years, I drove by, there was no traffic. Now you're gonna get traffic. I live up on Walnut Street, I get traffic now. There's nothing I can do. It is what it is. But I mean.
The number of subdivisions that have gone off of Walnut Street is just, I mean,
But
it's
it's across the
traffic.
street.
It's unfortunate.
They didn't get the
It's-
town to put up some commercial vehicle signs. I'd rather see houses go up, to be honest with you, I mean, but you need jobs. If they said, here, we're coming to town, we're gonna give a tip, and I thought you always had to give create jobs in order to give a tip, and to create jobs with local residents. That's nothing. You're getting construction sites, and what's going in there, trucking? I don't know, that's what I heard, trucking. Is that true or false?
It's a warehouse.
A warehouse, is trucking going in there? I was told trucking, it's gonna be a 24/7 trucking depot.
It's more like, they're gonna lease it to any sort of retail that may want storage.
Wayfair, Amazon, anything.
So that's
like
who's
that.
going, so do you know?
Yeah, but that's what they said, I'm
don't
down
know.
from.
Oh, you don't know.
There's no
It was
tenants lined up. They just
Wayfair
build it.
too, but it's still empty, right?
They just build it.
Right.
When you hear trucks, you're probably hearing tractor trailers delivering or
Oh, that goes without saying.
But they know it would be 24/7.
These poor people over here.
That's what they're saying, it's gonna be a truck depot, once it's up and running.
I have a
I
question.
don't believe it's a truck depot.
The pavement, is the water gonna be treated on that for oil?
The water will be treated, each catch basin will have a hood in it, which separates the water. The sediment forebays will also provide cleaning.
Okay.
Where I don't have a sediment forebay, I have a fancy high-tech, Vortec spinning,
Oil separator?
just one of those, just to see if it works well or not. But for the most part, yes, all the oils.
And then it'll be discharged into the wetlands?
Yep,
Okay.
it goes into the detention basin and then
And
What side of the street is the sidewalks gonna be on? Do you know yet?
last I knew it was going to be on the east side,
Okay,
where the residents are.
right.
Well, the majority of the residents. I know this side.
one of the conditions will be that there will be perpetual maintenance on the drain system on this project, and somebody responsible for it, and it's an agreement that's signed by the developer, and it runs with the land, so if the developer leaves and someone else comes in, they're now responsible for it, and it's recorded at the registry. It's one of the things that we started doing, seeing that, for example, Market Basket had a post-construction maintenance plan, and we haven't seen any reports come to us at all, even though it required it. So we said, all right, we're gonna have it formalized in an agreement that can be legally held up in court and that kind of thing. So it's just, like I say, it's a learning process. When we see one thing not do exactly what we wanted, we now condition the next project, similar project, with a little bit more wording that would hopefully protect the town. Just another thing, if I might, it just so happened that yesterday I I scanned into my computer a document that talks about the cost of residential, commercial, and open space to a town. And the ratio changes depending on the town, because you could look at somebody out in the western part of the state or somebody around some towns around here, and the tax rates and everything could be different, but in every single case, the ratio of $1 of revenue from taxes for commercial, for residential property, costs the town something like $1.20. So for every $1 of revenue you collect, 20 cents is actually an expense to the town due to the education and things such as that. Commercial was down either into the 90 cents for every $1, so it was a net gain. and open space was down as much as 60 cents. And those expenses come from, let's say, your conservation department having to go out and maintain the property and that kind of thing. So it's multiple study in New England from Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts that showed in every case the residential development is a net loss for the revenue coming in, so that anytime you can have a commercial place instead of a residential place, it's a benefit to the town overall for taxes and what it costs. And I'm surprised that all these years that that's been vacant there, that I always feared seeing something here that went up down by Rosina's on 104, which is multiple high-rise apartments, and what that would do for the town. So I can't say I'm glad that there's a commercial development here, but that it's not one of those apartment high-rise type things for the town.
Isn't that what's going on in between Honeydew and the pizza place?
That's, I
A little
believe it's
high-rise there?
28.
Yeah, 3 floors, right? I believe it's 3 floors going in there?
Yeah, it's a multiple levels, and it's a shame, but that's a 40B, and the town did as much as they could to fight it, but it's inevitable those will be approved, and it's really a shame. I don't think I think they're holding their noses and holding their hands over their mouths so they don't gag approving the project. That's my impression, listening to those who have to make the decision.
I have a question. I'm sorry. I'm closing my eyes, and I'm on 106, and I'm watching big trucks. How are they gonna make that turn to go? How are they gonna come up the highway, or are they gonna come up the other way of West Center Street, and they're gonna turn? How are they gonna turn to that driveway?
I'm assuming most of the traffic is gonna come off the highway and head towards the highway. That's why this is a prime location for trucks. When you say how is it gonna come into the driveway, which driveway are you picturing?
The one that's right off of,
The closest to the highway?
yes,
By the Shell station.
the Shell station.
Between
the Shell station and the house there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a different topic of conversation of whatever's happening over there. Actually, my plans don't even talk about that because they're still all over the place on what to do with that.
If you're coming southbound, you get off at that. You get off at, if you're coming southbound with delivery, don't make it, I know this is a done deal, and this is conservation, if you're coming southbound, you're gonna get off at 106 West Bridgewater. If you're coming northbound, you go to Bridgewater, cut down that way. So I don't see you going to West Bridgewater, going like this, might be easy, whatever easy route these truckers find, which they
Yeah,
have
they
every
do it
right
now.
to do, just
Right,
like we
Scotland
do.
Street.
So
They come
one
on our
proposal
streets
that
now.
I've seen is they're going
They shouldn't have to
to
go
off
off
the
Bridgewater,
highway
they
and
should go to the property.
mostly come in this way. And then they would be leaving at the new intersection to go back. So that, it isn't a done deal yet, but that's the idea, is that they would use the new set of lights to get back to the highway.
And you don't have a tenant there, is that what you're saying? You don't have a tenant?
As far as I know, there is no tenants.
I was under the impression there was a 24/7, I said, it's not a listen to fake news. But that's what it was told. I know with construction, you're gonna have a lot, and
They
that's
will-
only when you dig the dirt.
they will build it and they will
because
come.
The concrete,
That's
and
the
that goes
idea.
away. Now, I don't know if it's possible, is that some, like, say if they filled that whole place up as, say, A&W root beer trucks, right? And there was a condition we could, not us, but the town could maybe put on that saying, every one of those A&W root beer trucks must leave the warehouse or go up Lincoln towards West Center and go that way, or come in from that way. And anybody that comes down and keeps using Scotland Street and Lincoln Street that way, I don't know if there's you could put something, say you could get fined for doing it within a certain.
Well,
time
commercial
of-
truck traffic could be limited.
Certain time of night to morning,
Yeah.
possibly, I don't know, just take.
Part of the site plan with the planning board, you want to talk about that. I don't know how much power they have to do it.
I do know that there is some places I've heard of that there is a time period between 9 and 5 a.m. Trucks can't go up and down.
Yeah.
to use this road for this particular building, even though it's 24/7. And if there is, they get caught, they get fined.
And I
So
think,
maybe that could be something you guys could throw out at the planning board, like John said. Just, 'cause I don't wanna see that happen either. But you guys live on that road, so, I mean, and most of you, and I wouldn't wanna see that either. If it's possible.
Any other questions regarding this project as far as wetlands and conservation issues?
The plantings that you're talking about, can they be evergreen in nature so you don't have to, it'll be blocked off all year round? That
It
you're
was a
saying along the road?
variety of deciduous and evergreen, so I would have to go back to the planning board and.
Okay.
I'm sure there's plenty of deer that we don't wanna have too many arborvitaes.
Right.
But yes.
There'll be no more
Yeah,
arborvitaes
right.
left.
We have to mix it up a little bit, but yes, I can take the June 30th, or you can request it from the planning board if you want to look
Okay,
at it.
that'd be through the planning board.
Yes, yes. Even the lighting plan.
That being said, we're gonna have to continue it, one, for DEP number, and two, we're gonna need to continue so we can get the 53G paperwork in and online. We only meet once in July, so we should be able to at least get, hopefully, some proposals in by then.
yes, 20th is the meeting, and the 6th of July is the deadline. So we would have information about the 53G ahead of time, and perhaps we can get a consensus of the commission which 53G reviewers, rather than waiting for the 20th and then say, now let's send it out.
Okay. So we'll continue to the 20th, and,
Yes, hopefully we'll have a review. by
right,
then.
have the team online by then and can start
Just
getting
to
stuff.
have the discussions.
Yep. All right, I'll entertain a motion to continue.
I'll second it.
Moving second, all those in favor? So moved. So we're on for the 20th.
Okay, for the next one, too.
All righty.
July 20th and June 30th. I didn't say that. No, can you go?
Next we have 28 Pleasant Street.
I'm here for that.
Thank you.
All righty.
Board stand.
And the fines. Huh?
Thank you. That's straight, we can stay here.
I will read that one into the record. Under the Wetland Protection Act, Rules and Regulations, Chapter 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law, in the West Bridgewater. Actually, this is
Stormwater.
General Stormwater. So, it is 28 Pleasant Street, and this is
Yeah.
open hearing for general stormwater management regulations for construction to an addition existing office warehouse building and site work.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Some reason I don't have internet connection here, so I can't call it up on the screen.
All right, I can play Vanna.
Yeah, you can go ahead, or I can, John, you want my flash drive?
It's okay, we got neighbors that are cooperating with us.
Actually, I've got a flash drive in. I don't understand why it's not coming up, but it says I have no internet.
But if it's off your flash drive, you still should be able to.
Oh, right, here it comes.
Oh,
It just-
Hey, there we go.
Got it.
It's the old computer and it's so slow, that's what the problem is. We've got to buy a connection coupler that will fit my new laptop. So I'll put it into WB.
All
All right,
So we're here for a stormwater.
stormwater only.
Only.
Yeah.
So we have an existing multi-building parcel, 28 Pleasant Street, where they're adding an addition to their rear building. So this is the overall plan showing the rear building and where the addition will be. And we have a tenant who's moving their office from the small portion and moving their office into the new portion and expanding their warehouse use. The overhead door for that new portion is facing to the south. We have a couple new painted parking spots. We have very little new pavement, as most of it is paved with an existing stormwater. We have a new catch basin right there in the middle where we're going to flow into the existing drainage whole system that goes down to recharge. And for the roofs, we're actually going to have infiltration chambers along the backside, and we have a little bit of a swale to help capture any runoff from the lawn that would be back there. For stormwater, for construction management, I think we're going to have catch basin protection. I don't know. I think that's all we have. There wasn't much to this one. The septic will be existing, so there's no impact to that.
Now I'm just trying to figure out where this is. Where is it?
28 Pleasant Street.
Is that toward Barrett's?
Yeah,
And
the other side.
On the other side.
Yeah, on the
Yep.
other side. Brick
Behind the
building.
medical building.
Oh, okay, behind the medical building.
Yeah.
On the medical building, yes.
I know this really isn't under our jurisdiction, but with the additional use and space, are these additional parking spaces that you have on the plan, or those are the original parking? I just know the planning board requires a certain number of parking.
These new painted are to meet the requirements of the
Okay,
new
that's what I
warehouse.
thought, but I
Yeah.
just couldn't.
Yeah.
John, do you have anything on this one?
I have none. She's complied with everything, and I recommend approval under the stormwater regulations.
Anybody have any questions?
I have a
comments?
question.
Yep.
Where is it? Our address 632 Old Stopple.
Right there. Oh, that's 652, that's.
What's the name?
The
632.
name is wrong, that's why I didn't.
We have to go by the assessor's records,
Okay.
and so sometimes they're not.
So where is it?
You're right
So,
here.
We're right there, we're right
Okay.
there. And that's the new building right there, the darker one, see it?
This is the new portion of building.
That's the new building that they're gonna.
All right, and what's going to happen there now? Can you just go over that? Perfect.
Okay.
I'm also deaf, so.
Oh. Well.
Not totally deaf, but yeah.
So, building,
Yes.
and then in the back will be a swale to capture any of the runoff and the roof recharge, and it will flow into the existing stormwater system that goes that way. So the use is the continuation with the overhead doors here blocking any activity that would be seen from this side. So you're just gonna see.
You're just making an office, you know.
The office will move here, the warehouse will expand in use.
So I know this is just stormwater stuff, runoff. But there's a dilapidated fence back there. Is that something I
Property
could bring
line.
up at the planning board, or?
I believe the fence is actually your fence.
No, it
No,
runs
it's
into
yours.
the eye doctor next door.
Yeah.
It's not ours. My property's
It's not ours.
outside of
Yeah,
that.
I think it's on
It's like a
adjacent
property.
property. I
I
believe.
don't believe it's ours,
All right,
because
so
it
this is
runs
all-
into
this
the
is-
eye
So we'll
doctor.
figure it out.
This is not a stormwater issue, but please, June 30th, planning board.
I was
Okay.
gonna
I'll
say
have an answer
planning
by
board
then.
or go in and see the building inspector.
Yeah.
And the building inspector
Okay,
can.
I don't know, but anyways, it got knocked over after you guys took down a bunch of trees back there.
There's one thing else.
Yeah, there is.
Anyways, I would like to just see with that more business area there, possibly a fence put up.
It's gonna be the backside of the building. It's gonna be down
And there's no entrance
There's
on the back.
entrance.
No windows,
access
no
to the-
access, no emergency access?
There's one emergency egress, but that's.
Emergency egress.
Emergency
Emergency egress only.
The idea is to try to.
So whereas you guys are seeing stuff now, you won't see anything. Because that's actually being enclosed where the front of the building is now. It's actually only enclosed unit at the backside.
So what do you guys do over there again?
We're metal fabrication.
So all the lighting will be in the front, everything will be
Exactly,
directed to the
yeah.
front,
Yeah.
so. okay.
I know currently there was a bigger light put up that shines in. I know
We
my
have
neighbor
problems with
voiced
people
his
stealing
concerns.
from us is what the problem is.
That'll all be hidden.
We've had people stealing our scrap.
So this will actually block that light from your.
Why are we furious?
Is the scrap metal going in? Is the metal going in the building?
Yes, but we've had metal, because we don't have enough room. You know, it's a lot of sides, people stealing.
The drainage swale, the
Yes.
trench in the back,
Yes.
is there one currently there now?
No.
Okay.
This is to
So you-
mitigate the roof
Okay.
and any, well, we took down some trees, so any of the vegetation change that happened.
Will there be a floor drain in the new section where you have a door?
Inside?
No.
It'll be up to the plumbing inspector, but generally when you have a door that would allow access of a vehicle, it's sometimes needed anyway, whether you don't plan to. So
Right.
we'll put that in the conditions that whatever applicable plumbing regulation needs to be adhered to. And
Sure.
All right, any other questions, comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to issue a general stormwater permit with the noted conditions that John just made.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Move in second, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And I have 724 West Center Street, application for general stormwater permit and comprehensive stormwater regulations for Lowe's.
Good evening, Commission. For the record, my name is Casey Birch. I'm a civil engineer for Solely Engineering, and I'm here on behalf of Lowe's Home Centers LLC as the applicant. I'm here on behalf for the stormwater general permit only. I guess that's a good thing to emphasize. The project proposes a 3,100 square foot building extension on the northwestern corner of the Lowe's, just adjacent from the existing lumber canopy. We are maintaining the existing pavement along the edge. We are eradicating some of the parking spaces to accommodate a 24-foot wide drive aisle to keep the circulation around the building for fire and safety. The actual truck turning is back here, and I believe the majority of the trucks use this anyway, but it still allows for Lowe's trucks to access this area. The project also proposes a 1,500 square foot caged area that will house some of the tool rental equipment. This is supposed to be an addition for their tool rental space program that they're doing nationwide, where we've been tasked to for some of them in the Northeast. So that's what kind of my job is currently at the moment. So that's a 1,500 square foot cage area in the rear. You won't really see it, but it has a 12-foot high fence, and it's covered via canopy, and it's a concrete pad, similar to the garden center layout, but it's a smaller area in the back of the tool rental space. So yeah, we're not increasing any impervious area, and if anything, we're increasing the amount of roof area, which allows for cleaner water in that area anyway. So we're removing any potential parking and drive area, which could potentially have, oils and other things like that, and contaminants in the stormwater runoff. So that's a benefit, I guess, for stormwater. Just to go over the SEC practices. This whole project is in a low-lying area. There's a catch basin right here. There's a high ridge to the south and a high ridge to the north where the loading canopy is. So all the construction, in a berm along the I think that's the western side where the water tank is. So all the work will be performed kind of isolated in this area, in this low-lying area. So that makes it very easy for SEC measures. We have some silt sacks in the adjacent basins, even though we don't feel like that will ever reach there. Again, high ridge, but just extra caution. We have some composite silt sacks around any storage material, and we will be providing construction fencing around the entire area, leaving kind of a minimal space for one-way traffic to keep the canopy area in operations at all times. Obviously, sometimes that may need to be impeded, but the plan is to keep this the patrons being able to use this area to the best extent. We're proposing to relocate some water lines and relocate a storm drain that actually runs where we're proposing the addition and the caged area. So that's pretty much the project in whole. And the reason we're here is because the disturbance is about approximately 18,500 square feet, which puts us under the general stormwater requirements.
So is it just gonna have a roof on it with like, I'm not saying caging around, but is it gonna be like all enclosed?
So this shaded area here is the building extension. That will be all enclosed.
All
yeah.
enclosed, okay.
It'll be an extension of the building, and
Okay.
this area right here is the area that will have the black vinyl cage with the canopy over it.
Okay.
So yeah, it's about half the size of the building extension, and that'll be in the rear. You won't be able to see it from, the front.
So you just a little over half of basically a roof. You're gonna change the.
Yeah, it extends about probably 2/3 out from the building, and then there's like a little area that's not. It's not with a canopy. In that area, actually, the stormwater drains off this area out to it, and the other one gets collected.
So is that roof gonna be more? Well, I know you said canopy, so it's gonna be pitched.
Correct.
So it's not gonna, now is that roof itself on the building pitched as it is, or is it flat?
It will be pitched to. We have a storm drain that comes off.
No,
on
but
the
I mean,
corner.
is the roof that's existing now, the building that's existing now, is that roof flat or is it pitched?
Typically, Lowe's has a pitch, I believe, to the rear.
Okay.
But you can't tell because they have the parapets.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, the existing building typically is pitched to the rear. Yeah.
Not that it's really under our jurisdiction or anything, but you're getting rid of how many parking spaces beside the building?
Yeah, let me pull this one up again. So I believe we are eradicating.
20 plus or minus?
Yeah, about 23.
And then further to the north, you're taking 15 existing spaces to be reutilized for storage and display?
Correct, yes.
So the planning board issued the permit for 35 additional spaces that were never needed to begin with?
That's what I heard.
Really?
Yeah, in this area, apparently.
That's a lot of extra pavement we didn't have to approve as the commission way back in the day because.
So that could have been utilized as an
open, it could have been.
green area, shrub area.
I just thought it was odd that there was that many that you're willing to give up parking spaces that were not designed to be needed.
I mean, honestly, I've done many Lowe's in my lifetime, but they only really require about 3.5 per 1,000. So a lot of them, they've overparked because, towns just had poor regulations back in the day when a lot of these went in. So they really only need about 450 to 470. I mean, right now we're proposing.
Right. A lot of them never get
600
used anyways.
Well, in a way, it kind of worked out for you on this because at least you don't have to worry about the parking.
Now that 15 spaces that you're utilizing, that's for equipment storage or rental?
So tool rental, so things like, so people can come to this area and they can rent, I actually have the list of.
Well, my real concern is that I just don't want to see a bunch of pieces of equipment that have engines, oil, hydraulics, that are going to have fluids that we're going to have to deal with leaking going anywhere. I mean.
Right, a lot of that type of equipment is stored in the caged area. This stuff will have like trailers that you hitch, like smaller trailers that you can hitch.
Tow behind kind of trailer thing.
Yeah, exactly. I think, stuff like the augers and a lot of the stuff out here is the towable stuff that doesn't have.
Okay. I didn't want to see mini excavators and bobcats and
stuff
parked out there that's gonna.
But that'll be inside, so I don't have to worry about that, right?
I think those are actually.
You can leak everywhere in there, right?
Those are actually too big. Those won't have that. It would be like mini augers. There'll be some mini concrete mixers. That'll be inside the store. Yeah.
And then you got the lawnmowers out front and stuff.
Right. I think that's there already. Correct.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, that's all like it's there anyways. That's what it is.
John, any questions?
No, I think they did a good job.
Yeah, fitting it in where they did, I mean, they didn't have a lot of space to work with, really, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, some of the other ones, Lowe's just had to kill the project because it was just too tight of an area
Yeah,
where
it
it was,
is.
and kind of was fortunate with the
This
site.
is something that they want to do with all of them?
Yes, we're working right
If they
now
can.
in Wareham.
Oh, okay.
We're working in North Attleboro. I'm trying to think of the closest one here. The one in Pembroke got killed, unfortunately. We're doing a couple in Rhode Island too, Cranston and Warwick, 2 of them in Warwick. So, yeah, I think we started off with 8 in the Northeast. I think they're trying to, depending on how well these 8 go, they're trying to do more. So hopefully we'll get that through. But just trying to compete with Home Depot's kind of program. So.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right, hearing nothing, I'll entertain a motion to issue a general stormwater permit for the expansion of the existing building.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Moving second, all in favor? So moved.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
I'm happy about that.
All right.
I feel kind of fortunate to, I know it's late, but I'm kind of fortunate to come after. Have a good night.
Good night.
I guess we're here for 194.
Apologies, I'd like to just drop off.
Oh,
Yeah,
Thank you. Oh, should I give it?
that's it.
No,
That's it. Just saving you some steps, but
And I assume this is 194 South Main Street? All righty. Come on, back up.
And then that was going to jump into the front.
Yeah, sorry, had I known that you were here for the end, I would have seen
Yeah,
if
it's okay.
anybody objected to.
It's okay. All right, so again, Josh from Jacobs Driscoll and PMP. We're here for address for certificate compliance. They installed the septic system under the parking lot with the retaining wall along the property line. And there was some wetland buffer enhancement done. There was a easement, conservation easement, which was, that's all been prepared and recorded and all that. That's really it. There's a handful of markers on this chain link fence, wetland markers here. I think that was all that was required. So everything's been stabilized. The erosion control is still in place today, just until the COC is signed off on. Everything's stabilized. It should be all set to issue with.
John, anything before I?
Issues.
yep, I do have something. I'd like to be the first of this group to congratulate Josh on a new baby girl.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations.
And other than saying that, I have no issue with it and recommend issuing a COC without a bond.
Okay, my only question is on, as you look at the plan, to the right-hand side, where the wetland finger comes all the way down the edge.
Yeah.
I know we had questioned it way back at the beginning of the process, what that was gonna be used for and utilized. It looked like they, at one point, had vehicles that were driven in and parked in there, and there was a fence that was partially down. I'm just wondering whether that has ever been determined what use it's gonna have, and is it just gonna be an entrance and exit area from the door that's there?
I'm not exactly sure. I wasn't here.
I mean, I know there's new
I wasn't
tenants or
here
new
for-
owners, so.
Yeah. I know you
But I
can't. You
did
can't-
Google pictures from previous, and there was cars parked in that
Yeah.
area.
I know you definitely can't drive this way, obviously with the fence that and there's a tree here, so you can't drive that way.
They were coming in.
Right,
from
but
this side.
it's the area to the front that was next to where that wetland line was. There used to be like a white fence, and there were obviously vehicles pulled inside of it. And I just know the wetland line that's right beside the building.
So would it will require monitoring and doing an enforcement?
And where the gas line's right there, I'm sure you don't want to be doing a whole heck of a lot of work in it. I just don't want to see that become a parking area that's not an approved area to be used and something done with. So we just an FYI, I didn't know if there was any update.
No parking signs.
Yeah, there shouldn't be any parking in there. It's a limited site as it is. I mean,
Right.
it's just like move two to move one type of situation.
But otherwise, I didn't have any problem with it. All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to issue the certificate of compliance.
I'll make the motion.
Moved and seconded? All those in favor? So moved. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yep.
Okay, next on our agenda is, well, actually, I'll ask, what are you here for?
I moved to town and then COVID happened, so I haven't been able to come to any town meetings of any kind. So I wanted to, sort of come and see what was what, and
Well, thank you.
I have wetlands, so I figured wetlands is a good spot to go.
Don't do nothing until you come in front of us.
Do what?
Don't do anything until you come in front of us, even if you think you can. Don't do it.
I kind of have that attitude anyway, because
good.
my mother, when I was living with her, the town took away the access to our wraparound driveway and gave us a little teeny tiny U driveway that didn't fit all of our cars. And they didn't take up the wraparound, but we no longer had access to the wraparound. And the people that installed it said, well, you can just get that torn up. And when we did, they came back and they're like, you couldn't do that. You're within 100 feet of wetlands.
Oh, boy. What town was that?
Needham.
Oh, wow.
And so,
Are you interested in this type of,
I'm interested in conservation of any animal habitat. I am interested in keeping the wetlands wet. I'm interested in finding somebody who can tell me what native plants belong around here and what I can do in the wetlands that I have, because a lot of the trees are dead. And so I would like to replace them with living plants. But I want to make sure that they're native to the area before I do things, because I know that that increases the ability for our pollinators to thrive.
I'm also going to throw this out there that we do have an alternate seat on the commission currently.
Yeah?
And if you were interested, sending a little letter or contacting the Board of Selectmen that you were interested, there is on the town website a form you just fill out as a volunteer looking to be on a committee, and they could appoint you as an alternate under the Conservation Commission.
and you could sit here and help us make some decisions.
And learn as you go.
Okay.
So if you're interested, I mean, when I started, I sat in on 2 or 3 meetings to find out whether it was something I really wanted to do, and then I signed up and said, yeah.
Just a few years for me. I've learned a lot. I've been here for, what, 18 years now?
Yeah, you got me by a...
And I had no clue in the beginning what it was about, and I'm still learning as I go.
One thing that I think I learned here, and I'm not sure I learned it, but I think I learned, is I think one of the fences that's on my property is probably there for a reason. It's like this
Good job.
random 3
Yeah.
panels of fencing, and I'm like, why?
Oh, might not be either.
It might not be, because the 3 panels on the other side isn't anything except the neighbors didn't want to see his yard. So, that might be, how often?
We meet twice a month,
Twice a month? And always at 6:30?
6:30. And this, I got to admit, you came to one of our longest meetings that we've had in,
A long time.
I'd say years.
I was
Not
gonna
counting
say-
COVID. I mean, COVID was a different thing, but even
was gonna say years,
pre-COVID,
too.
we
Yes.
generally try to get out of here in an hour and a half at the most.
I did have a little incentive, that very long one, that had 4 pages. I was very curious about that one.
We also have not had 8 new hearings in one night in a very long time.
We had a,
Normally 2 or 3 is our
I
max,
think that's
so.
because of COVID.
we didn't have a meeting in June, and the same thing's gonna happen in July. We only had one meeting in June, we only have one meeting in July, so it's not common, it's uncommon to have that, but that's why they all bunch together.
And by having another alternate, it gives us a little bit more leeway in a quorum. As long as we have 3 members present, we can hold the meeting.
Ah.
When
So
we don't have enough people.
So if I couldn't reschedule one of my students, then, because tonight I legit, so I'm a crazy person that takes pictures of animals and posts them all over the hub. And I love my backyard. I moved here because of the small town. I moved here because it's an agricultural. My goal is to stop supplying the big companies and bring it back to local companies. So the fact that I can go to a local and get my, my produce or my meat, that was a big deal to me. And being able to have all the animals in my backyard. Most people are scared of them. I like them coming to my backyard.
As long as they just travel through, I don't have a problem.
I don't even mind if they hang out.
It's just the way they are.
As long as they don't try and come in, we're all good. So, so I was able to, I posted something showing the raccoon eating out of my bird feeder. And somebody had posted, his name was Steve, posted that there was a meeting tonight. And so I said, oh. And I texted my student, I'm like, can we move it up a half hour? That's why I was late getting here. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, I haven't been, myself, the last few meetings, I haven't been able to attend because of work, because I've been getting home late. And, no, it's not something you have to, I mean, as long as there's a quorum, like Tim said, it's.
I mean, sometimes we start a meeting a little later.
Yeah, and sometimes if you gotta show up at 7, if you can be here at 7, that's fine, too. I mean, if that's the way it's gonna be, like tonight, I didn't think I was gonna be here. I thought it might be here a little later than normal, but I actually got here basically on time, so.
So what do I need to know moving in, or coming into the program, or
Open mind.
committee, whatever? I don't need to know any.
And learn. Nope, just learn.
And then you have the opportunities to attend workshops that the Mass Association of Conservation Commission holds, and you'll learn from those. So some of those are online, some of them are in person, so hard to say right now because of what's happened during COVID period. A lot of the in-person things just went online, but I don't know how they're going to handle it after the state of emergency is over.
Okay, excellent. And I have all kinds of questions about my septic, but I won't bother. I came from sewer water. So septic was a whole.
Oh, yes.
picture. So there's a lot of different things now. In A, owning my first home, B, coming to a more agricultural as opposed to a very city, well, not very city, but much more city than you. It's a learning curve. And my son's been great about coming to visit and taking care of my lawn and helping to renovate the inside, because I thought it just needed slapping on some paint here and there, and really not.
Where do you live, if you don't mind me asking?
Do you know where Raposa sign is, or was?
Yep.
That's me now.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
I learned I'm supposed to have 2 openings for my septic, and I only have 1. So that's confusing to me.
You need a septic upgrade.
Well, actually.
I just got a brand new
I was
septic.
gonna say, that system's not that old,
No, I'm
so.
just kidding, yeah.
That was part of the contingency, was that a new septic system get put in.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So I'm like, so when I had a problem with the alarm, I had somebody from the septic come out and they're like, there should be a second hole. So, yeah, I'm confused by that. I don't know how that, I didn't know.
Your
anything.
next visit will probably be to the Board of Health, because they would have approved the permit for that. So if it's not there and it should have been,
I don't know. I don't
there's
know
an
how to read
installer
the
that should be on the hook for that.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if that's a pumped system, it's gonna,
If it's a pump system.
yeah, definitely need to be in compliance,
Yeah.
Okay.
just for your safety.
So Board of Health.
So
Board of Health.
So you mean you're gonna be selling the house and moving out then?
Hmm?
So you're gonna be selling, moving pretty quick, huh? Scared?
Nope.
I'm just kidding.
I've had an alarm system on the septic system that went out several days after it was after the warranty on it went out, which I don't understand how a warranty is just a year on something like that, but, and apparently it's back ordered, so I can't get a new one yet. So every so often I just turn it on to make sure it's still working. I don't worry about a lot of things.
You're laid back, huh?
I work for DYS, I don't worry about a lot of things. All right.
Thank you.
So it's on the website?
It's on the town website. I'm not sure where exactly, but there's a form that's for volunteer.
Volunteer request thing.
Yeah, volunteer request form, and pretty straightforward.
All righty. Well,
Awesome.
thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Good night.
The other one that I'll have to check out is the education board thing, or board. The, was it school council?
Oh, school
There we
committee,
go.
school committee.
Names don't really stick out.
Yep.
I learn about 100 names a year, and I forget them all. I know all their faces.
What was your name?
By the way, I'm Kimberly.
I'll remember, I'm bad with names, so when you, 5 minutes from now, I won't remember that, not to be rude.
That's okay. Just look on the
This
web
is
and
where I
find the
am.
person that posts a million pictures of animals.
Okay.
You'll find me.
There you go.
Nice meeting you, Kimberly.
Nice to meet you all.
Kimberly. Yeah. I'm looking to see if we have a volunteer for the Community Preservation Committee. Paula was a designated person. Part of what's happened is with COVID, she hasn't been able to attend. They've tried to reach out, I tried to get in touch with her, and nobody's been able to. They are updating our open space plan is part of it, and the other part is the CPA really needs somebody there that can help participate in prioritizing and doling out funds. So if there's anybody that is interested or wants to step up, we can leave it on the agenda until we get
How often do
Mo
they
back.
meet?
I don't think they meet all that often. I think it's
So from what I've heard, they meet,
more as
perhaps-
needed before the town meetings kind of thing.
Oh, it's not like a set weekly schedule?
Yeah, it's not every month.
No, it's not even that.
No, I don't.
So the majority of it's towards December, January. During budget season, they start meeting on a regular basis. Then they hold a public hearing sometime in early spring, and then they go to town meeting with their proposal, which is usually May, June, and that's about it. Then there's a long period where they don't do anything, and then back December, January again, and start up again.
When did it, what
So
times?
it's like December through May. They kind of have semi-regular meetings, but not.
Is it like 6:30 or so, is that when they open?
I think most of them are, yeah, in an evening. I know Jill's pretty flexible, I think, as far as trying to schedule it. But, I mean, we can leave it on the agenda till Mo's back and see. I have a feeling Mo with Finance Committee stuff is probably gonna say no. But
I just don't know what work I can barely make it here.
nobody
sometimes.
jumps on the sword. I will dive on it and sign up
I'll
for.
take it under consideration. Let's leave it till the next one.
Because I do know, one of the things that I did get asked was, one of the CPC requirements is not only open space and affordable housing, but farmland and agricultural land is money they can spend. So they're looking at a piece on River Street. The state has already started to put funding in place to put an APR restriction on it.
River Street?
Yep. And CPA needs some matching funds, but they didn't have an active member from us or Ag Commission or anybody to try to help steer that through.
All right.
And again, typically it's small money. It's like 10% of the asking price the town needs to come up with to help match it. And the state's actually got some money and is interested in doing it. So it's things like that that come up that they're looking for a little more input from us, from the commission on, or be able to take back and forth. So that's where this all started from. And I know with the new open space plan they're trying to come up with, agriculture in preserving it, just like they said about the Lincoln Street, that if there was a way to preserve that,
Yeah.
why couldn't have we or didn't we, or, which is funny how all of a sudden this has kind of changed in the last 5 years. Because when we look at other land in town that's agricultural, was open space, when we tried to preserve it, and they said the town didn't want to be in the real estate business, we didn't want to buy land, and so we lost agricultural land, and now all of a sudden it's turned around and we've said, no, we want to preserve it, we want to keep our open space. And I think they've seen what Scotland Street and Lincoln Street can do, and there's not many places like that left. So.
But in a way though, I mean, if you kind of think about, like, especially with Lincoln Street, like I said, I'd rather see commercial, industrial
Yep.
zone building there than
Housing.
big housing
did.
development, which is residential, and, yeah, because it's just more beneficial, I think, to the town to have something like that, and it's so close to the highway. Right. So. but
As
that's-
John said, putting a 8-story skyscraper like Bridgewater and Rainham have would not fit
I
well.
would definitely rather not, yeah, I would rather see that building out back behind my house than an 8-story blocking that whole thing.
Yep.
And then having to worry about cars, never mind people on top of that,
Yep.
so.
Any invoices?
Yes. There is a warrant that, for my mileage, in the amount of $112. And so if the commission votes to approve it and have Tim sign it, I'll have the warrant papers prepared so that when you come in to sign it just has to be done before the close of the fiscal year, so there's no rush on it, but it needs to be.
I mean, I can't take my 2-week vacation?
Do you have one coming?
No.
Oh, okay.
However, I do start my summer sabbatical soon. I go to a 3-day work week.
Well, let me know what's
Really?
best.
Yeah.
Let me know what's best for you so that,
Whenever it's ready.
okay.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the mileage.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second
Like, all in favor?
Aye.
So done, and I can come in and sign it. And anything else?
That's it.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
it. I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
So done. That was a
Thank
long
you,
discussion.
Steve.